Today what we're going to do is we're going to start out with an overview of DPI, and we're going to talk about some challenges that we all face. I don't know any company that just performs pack-outs seamlessly, so every job is different. But we're going to talk about the overview, and then we're going to go until about 5 to 10 my time here on the West Coast. And then we're going to take a 5-minute break. So at least you can leave the room and not miss anything. And then we'll come back for another hour, and we're going to go through an actual case study, a real job that I did. Just so you know, all through the entire sessions, I'm going to be talking about the good, bad, and ugly. I'm not going to give you perfect scenario type of situations, but we're going to talk about real life situations and how we work through them. And then at the 2-hour point, we're going to take a 30-minute break. So if you need to get something to eat or check on your phone messages and your emails, you can do that. Then we'll come back for another 55 minutes. We're going to go through the forms and the manual. And then another 5-minute break. And then the last hour, we'll pull everything together and show you how to use the system with your computer. So let's get started. So I'd like to welcome everyone. And digital photo inventory is so simple and basic. It's not very glamorous. It doesn't involve any fancy software or hardware that you need to take to the job site. All you really need is a digital camera and the training. And just having the system in place, you're going to be able to adjust the system according to your company or as your company grows. If you're currently using any type of software package, this is going to give you core principles on maybe give you some different ideas on how to be more efficient. So it's not just about digital photo inventory, the process, but it's also about performing efficient packouts. So to get started, it would only be fair to let you know how this came about. Ken Larson, he now works at DPI, but he's a Canadian, and he had a company in Vancouver. He sold it to one of his biggest clients, CanStar, and he moved to the States. He was hired by Charlie Casani at Thematic of Sacramento, and at the time Charlie's company was booming. He had lots of mold jobs, and they had a lot of Contentz. So they had 300 vaults full of Contentz, and they didn't really have a system that Charlie was, happy with. So Ken came on as a water specialist, and Charlie said, you know what, we really need help in the Contentz division. So he had Ken go over there and start to, working on some efficiencies. So Ken didn't really care for Contentz at the time, so he was just looking at the whole system from a logical standpoint. He didn't have any preconceived ideas, and so he developed digital photo inventory, and he's gracious enough to allow me to use it and share it with you. So in reality, with packouts, a lot of times this is our thorn in our side because there's so many things that could go wrong. And so we want to minimize what can go wrong and get some control of our jobs. So through the years, I've just seen so many changes. I've been in the industry about 20 years. I had a company in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and we were called restoration cleanups. All we did was on-site cleaning of structure and Contentz, and then our clients would hire us to come in and clean the Contentz at their facility. So we would help with the packouts, and then we would go to all these different facilities to process them. Most of the facilities had just a basic sink, no real setup. So through the years, a lot of you have these amazing facilities and a lot of equipment and things. So things have really improved throughout the years. So now, we still want to minimize our liabilities, and we don't want to question our profit margins. We want to make sure that we are making a good profit margin. And if we break or lose one item on a job site, if it's pricey enough, then it can really dip into our profit margins. And then just the challenges of inventory. How do we do it? What do we write? How much do we write? Should we be using software? Is digital photo inventory the answer? Can we blend them? So we want to take a real good look at our division and ask ourselves, especially you owners and managers, what is your annual breakage and loss budget? Do you have a budget, or are you just at the mercy of your team, of what, or the accusations? So we want to get control of our payouts. And we're not going to be able to avoid them, but we definitely want to minimize them. We know that you've got a lot of different ways that you can use your money, and it's not paying back to the client. One of our clients actually created a contingency fund, and for every single pack-out job that they perform, they set aside X amount of dollars, whether it's $50, $100, $200. They put it into a separate bank account, and that's what's used to pay for the breakage that does occur. At the end of the year, they will take a percentage of that money, keep it in the account, and the excess is paid out as a bonus. Now, that it's up to each company how that bonus is used. It could be for an end-of-the-year party for the crew members. They may decide that they're going to donate to some charities. So it's an incentive to create accountability for the team. So our ultimate goal is always going to be to reduce those liabilities and increase our profit margins. So we can do that by developing and implementing the digital photo inventory system. I call it DPI for short, and so if you hear me say that, that's what I'm talking about. So how can we reduce liabilities? Well, number one, we want to look internally. What can we control? We can control what gets broken, how much gets broken. We can control the lost contents and misrouted contents. And then we can do this by improving our packing and handling methods and our techniques for running a pack-out job. We also want to control our liabilities by documenting pre-existing conditions. So this is rule number one for today. You may have already been in the practice of documenting any damage that you see. Maybe take photos or videos, and you're really, when you see damage, okay, let's take some photos. But I want to change your thinking on that, and I want you to think about documenting pre-existing conditions. Those could be good, bad, ugly, it doesn't matter. We just need to document the conditions in the home. And then it's really important that as we're meeting with the homeowner that we're setting expectations. We want the homeowners to realize that we don't know the condition of their contents. We're going to be processing electronics, appliances, dental equipment, medical equipment. Once these items have been smoke damaged or water damaged, it's not advisable to turn them on to test them until they've been cleaned and diagnosed. So we need to establish with the insured that we don't know the condition. Our job is merely to mitigate the damage so that, if they're wet, we're going to dry them. If they're smoke damaged, we need to also stabilize those, and that could be through drying them. So once we have the items stabilized, we can, hold on one second, please. Sorry about that. We were having a technical problem on our end. Okay, so we want to establish the condition of the contents are unknown so that, our job is to mitigate the damage and to clean the items and diagnose them. And then we'll share our findings with the insured and with the insurance company. So we need to really clarify our role and our liabilities and the extent of accountability for our company. We're not here to, accept all this responsibility. The peril that they experience, whether it was a flood or a fire, is the problem, not our company. So we're here to mitigate and to clean. Okay. Now externally, we have things that happen, and these are forces from outside. These are the insureds, the insurance company. But one of the common things that we face could be unsubstantiated claims by the insured saying that we lost an item, that we broke an item, that we're returning something with a scratch and it didn't exist before. So we want to limit our exposure, and so the more documentation that we have, the better. We can maximize our profit margins now by documenting all that we can, and we want to document what we remove from the property. That's a given. But what about when we relocate things within the same home? So say, for example, there is a kitchen fire and items are badly burned in the kitchen, and we're definitely going to pack those out and take them to our facility and process them. But what about if there's some rooms at the end of the hallway where maybe the carpeting needs to be replaced and some paint needs to be done, but the contents themselves aren't bad, and we can just wipe them off as we box them, and we can store them in the insured's garage. Okay, what are we going to do about the inventory of those items? I highly recommend that you document and inventory the items. If you touch them and relocate them, then you should document, box them, make sure that they're safe, and then you want to relinquish responsibility for those if you do not have full care, custody, and control of the items. So, what can happen when things are left on site? Family members are coming and going. There could be other tradespeople. So if you're going to accept care, custody, and control of the contents, then you need to have full care, custody, and control of the contents. Otherwise, you shouldn't be held responsible, and then you would want to get a waiver signed from the insured that you're leaving these items in their care, custody, and control on their property. Okay, so we want to minimize any of those unsubstantiated claims. So the more photos, the more videos, and the more signed paperwork we have, then the less exposure that we have also. Okay, here's an example of a DPI that was done. And remember, I'm going to show you the good, bad, and ugly. This is the way we started out. We were using a wipe-off board. And we've got tools. This is a garage fire, and a lot of the shelving has burned away. And now we're actually pulling a lot of the tools up off of the floor, and we need to document and inventory them. So we're using a wipe-off board. This is box number 1, and we've got some tools and hammers and things. We've got 2 photographs for the tools going into box number 1. Box number 2, we've got 5 photographs. Box number 3, we've got 5 photographs. And box number 4, we've got 3. So you can see that, sometimes we're going to have more photos than other times of the contents going into the box. So our goal here is that we're going to take photographs of what's going into the box so that we can find them later. So if an insured told me that they needed a tire iron, maybe I don't even know what a tire iron looks like, or it's, I don't see one here that fits my image of a tire iron. Well, all they have to do is say, Barb, I need the item in photograph 616. It's this item right here. Well, now I have a visual, and I also know which box it's in. So there's an advantage to giving the insureds the photographs of their pack out. And now, can you imagine if I had to write down all the different tools that are in box number 1? I'm okay if they're hammers and mallets and things, I know what they are. I have no idea what this item is. So this is because I'm not familiar with automobiles and tools. Well, think about your technicians. Are they going to be familiar with all the different contents of any given home or office? So to expect them to write down accurate descriptions of items is going to be really difficult. So what are some of the advantages of DPI? Number 1, we can document the pre-existing conditions that we see, and especially the damage. And then we'll be able to photograph everything that we pack, or that we relocate, or we take off site. We're also going to have a very simple system for documenting total loss items. And I just want to tell you right now that there's no comparison to the software packages that you can use, that when you type in an item or UPC code, that it's going to give you a full description and a price, and replacement price. We don't have that capability within DPI. So you may want to use a separate software just for total loss items, or I'll be showing you a really simple way of doing it that it puts the responsibility for pricing onto the homeowner. And then the other advantage of DPI is that we can track everything that we truly do have in our possession. So by using these systems and documenting, we're going to be able to reduce our liabilities and increase our profits. Let's talk about written inventories. If any of you have done them in the past or you're currently doing them, you know that part of the challenge is that it's really, really tedious and time-consuming if we're going to fill out the information properly. And that's assuming that you do want a full description and you want everything written down as far as all the different damages that are on the contents. And then we have items that it's just hard to describe what they are. I mean, what do you even call it? What if these are things that have been imported into our country and we just never saw them before? What do you call them? And then how do you describe and write down all the different types of damage on an item? So let me just give you a visual. If you had a 4-legged table, it's square, and every single leg has different types of damage to it. One is scratched, one has paint on it, another one is gouged. How would you describe, like, which leg is the front right leg? Which one's the rear? So now, our technicians are having to stop and think, and then they're having discussion. Well, is this the front leg or the back leg? How would you call this damage? We don't have time for that. So we want to make it as simple as possible for them. And then we could write down that something was broken as we're packing it, but when those inventory sheets get back to the client, they could argue with you because you don't have any photographs of it. So with DPI, we let our photographs tell the story. The more photographs you take, the better. They're quick to take, they're inexpensive, you can store them forever, and they're going to be accessible so that anybody and everybody can view them. And then think about who needs these photo inventories. Your estimator is going to, actually be using them for billing. Our crew needs them at the cleaning center, at your facility. As they open up a box, they want to be able to say, well, whether or not the item was broken or damaged at the lost site, or maybe the damage occurred on, while it was being transported to your facility, and you really are responsible for the damage. And I don't have a problem being, for accountability for things that we really do break. We need to address those quickly. We're handling thousands of items every day, and so we know things are going to get damaged or broken, and sometimes, hopefully not, but things may get lost from time to time. We just want to do everything that we possibly can to minimize them. Okay, and then during the pack back, our crew is going to refer back to our photographs so that they know where to put things. The insured is going to benefit by having their photographs, and then we can share them with the adjusters and the insurance company. So remember, I told you it's not very glamorous. We're going to use paper, and we're going to create a job binder. And so here's where we can store our signed documents, our tracking sheets, our pre-printed labels, any notes and receipts for the job. So this is a very manual type of paper. You can use paper. The other way that you can do this is scanning your paperwork onto your computer and having files. And that way you don't have to rely so much on the paper or the binder. If it gets lost, you always have a backup. Some other disadvantages of having the written inventories is, what do we call it? What are the descriptions? Is it a box of toys, or would we rather know that it's a box of Beanie Baby collection? Is it a table or is it a nightstand? Is it a fancy chair or is it an everyday chair? So our descriptions then are going to justify our cleaning costs, because we definitely want to cost more if it has high detail and it's going to take us longer to clean it. Okay, so if you could discuss this among your team there around your table, what would you write down to describe this piece? What would you call it? Just say stuff out loud. I'm sorry I can't hear you guys. But just discuss among your team. What would you call it? I've been told this is a curio cabinet, a display case, a hutch, and then the question is it the bottom of the hutch or the top of the hutch? And so anytime that we have to stop and think about what we're going to call an item, we're losing time. It's slowing us down. And then this piece, we can see a bed in the front of the photo here. So maybe, if I write this down, I'm not thinking, and I just say this is a nightstand because it's in the bedroom. That's where I found it. But if I ask Susie to go find the nightstand in the warehouse, she might walk right past this because she thinks this is an end table. When it's out of context and it's not in the bedroom, she may think it's an end table and walk right past it, not knowing that this is the item I was asking about. This piece, discuss among yourselves. How tall do you think this piece is? Do you think it's 6 inches high, 12 inches high, 18 inches? Is it 3 feet high? Is it full size? It doesn't matter. Well, if you lost it, or if the homeowner claims that you lost it, or maybe you don't even know it really existed, but we've got a photo here, and the homeowner is showing us this photo, and they're saying this is a life-size carousel horse. Well, my goodness, it could be worth $3,000 if it's life-size or more, right? But what if it's only 6 inches tall? It might only be worth $20. So if we look at the photo, it might help you with perspective if you knew that this was a 5-foot by 5-foot square moving pad that it's resting on. This is an 18-inch roll of stretch wrap, and there's a stairwell right behind it. So in reality, and you know what, it's not my photo, so I don't even really know myself, but I can start to see, it's probably maybe 1 foot across on the base, maybe 2 foot across here. So this might be like 3 feet tall. But again, I don't really know. I'm just guessing based on everything else I see in the photograph. And then among your team, discuss what would you call this item? If you had to write down a description and you didn't have a photograph of it, what would you call it? I've gotten, it's a magazine rack, it's a vanity seat, it's a bench. And so if we have all different ideas about what to call it, it could slow us down. And then we want to consider the condition that the items are in. So this piece, you know, it looks like it's in pretty decent shape. I don't see any obvious damage from here, other than the fact you might not think it's very attractive. And then how about this one? From a distance, it looks like it's fine. But then when you zoom in on it, you move it around, now you start to see some damage. But how would you write this down? We've got a scratch on the bottom molding of this piece. It's on the corner. What if there were damage all the way around it? How long would it take to write that down? And how many brain cells are you having to use to write this information down? And just remember, I don't know if any of you are getting a pushback on your pack out hours, but you know, think about what your team is doing. How much time are they spending to get their inventory completed? Another thing that we want to consider is how the items were being used before you packed it out. So we look inside this end table, and they're using it for storage for their books. Now, they're going to say, you know, with their electronics, that everything worked before you took it away. Have you ever opened up a cabinet and somebody's got like 10 PCU units in there, and they're probably just experimenting with them, or they're broken, maybe they're just for spare parts. But once we start to pack them out, then all of a sudden they're brand new and they were all functioning. So we need to document where we find things. How have they been stored? Are they in the bottom of a pile out in the garage? So we want to take lots of photos. So here we've got a cube refrigerator, like a dorm refrigerator, and they're using it for storage, which, you know, hey, maybe they're in the process of moving or something weird. Let's take another photograph. Now we can start to see a full picture here. And we've got a missing door on the mini freezer unit. And we also have some cut cords in the back. So this piece was not in working condition when it was packed out. So these photos are gold for us, because if the homeowner says, hey, my refrigerator's not working, we've got evidence that it wasn't in working condition. So with our handwritten inventories, we get limited information. If we get a lot of information, then maybe we spent way too much time on the inventory. So with DPI, now we've got unlimited information, and this is going to help us even to improve our tracking ability of the contents within our facility. So what do the customers really want? I don't know, have any of you ever had your own disaster? Have you had strangers coming into your home packing out your contents? I have, and it's just a really strange feeling. Actually, I even had my crew do it, and it's just an odd feeling to have anyone else going through your belongings. But the most important thing is people want to know that everything is being taken care of properly, and that they're not going to be abused, basically, and damaged. Internally, we want to keep things simple. So we want to make it easy for our crew to do it right. And as managers, that's our responsibility. So with written inventories, it's hard to describe items. We might be limited by the education of the technician. They could be just out of high school. They don't have a lot of life experience. You know, the workers that we hire to be our frontline workers, we're not requiring them to have, you know, a bachelor's degree or to have computer skills. So we have to take that into consideration and make it as simple as possible. With the written inventory, it's difficult to track where the contents are stored. So we also don't want to limit ourselves or our team by the fact that some of our team members, English may not be their first language. They could be very good workers, and we want them to be able to do our inventories as well. So we don't want to be limited by the fact that they don't have a real strong command of English. It doesn't matter with DPI. Also, we don't want to worry about the misspellings. I've used software before where if you type it in, if you misspell it, it saves it. If you have spell checker on, it slows down the software. And, it could slow down us because we're having to go back and check for typos. And also with the written system, it's only accurate if the insured agrees with us. Whereas with our photographs, a picture could say 1,000 words, but its picture could also save us $1,000. And I have a real life example I could share with you. One of my clients, they learned DPI on the webinar. 2 weeks later, they had a water damage job, and they had to do a partial pack out of a couple of roofs that were affected. So they took all their photographs of their rooms, like I recommend, and they were on the second day of their pack out. They got a phone call from the insureds, and they were very upset, and they said that my client started a fire in their house, in their condo. And he was like, he couldn't figure out how that could possibly happen. So what the insured said is that in one of their rooms they had a fireplace with an auto ignite. So on the weekend, this fireplace would just come on at 8 o'clock in the morning. So they said that my client leaned an oil painting against the fireplace, and when the fireplace came on with auto ignite, that it caught the oil painting on fire. So number one, they lost an oil painting, and number two, their condo has smoke damage now. So fortunately, my client had the photographs from the first day when they did their walkthrough, and his photos show that the oil painting was there when he did his walkthrough. He did not put it there. His crew didn't put it there. So that photo saved him a lawsuit and thousands of dollars. Okay, we also want our photo inventory system to speed up our job if possible. So if we can trim our pack out hours, then we're going to save the insurance company money, and it's going to make us look better, because we don't want any inventory system to slow us down and inflate our pack out hours. When you think about it, discuss this among yourselves now. Who benefits the most from the inventory of restorable contents? When you think about it, the insurance companies require inventory of total loss non-restorable contents because they're going to be paying the insured for those items, right? Well, what about the inventory of the restorable items? Does the insurance company require you to do a detailed inventory of restorable items? I talked to some large loss adjusters from State Farm and asked them this question, and they said they don't really care a whole lot about the inventory of restorables. And so when you think about it, why do we do inventory then of restorable contents? Isn't it an internal function for us ultimately? It's more of a CYA function for our company. Now obviously the insured should have a copy of their inventory, but again, does the insurance company require that we do a specific type of inventory for the insured? I don't know of anybody who's requiring it. So if you have an insurance company that is requiring something specific for the inventory of restorable contents, could you please write me a note in the chat section? I'm really curious. So I challenge you, if you have an insurance company asking you for a specific type of inventory, let me know. Okay. So the faster we can do our packouts, the better. It's going to make us look better, but we still want control and we want documentation. We don't want to go so fast, though, that we're compromising the accuracy and the quality of our inventories. So the only way that we can speed up our packout is to make it easier to do it right. Well, how can we do that? Number one, it's training. So I applaud all of you for being here today. I hope you have a lot of your crew members listening in at the same time. This system is not a cookie cutter system, so you're going to have to customize it for your company. But, you know, the point is you're getting the training, you're looking at, ways of documenting and doing your inventory, and now the next step is to implement it and make sure that it's consistent throughout your whole company, that each pack out, you're doing your inventory the same way. Another thing that we want to do to make it easier for our team is to give them the right tools and resources and setups at the job site so that it's easier to do it the right way. So think about the efficiencies of your pack out team. What supplies do they have? What system for setting up the job do they have? In the past, we've gone out on jobs and we've seen it where 10 guys are sent into a job site. They're carpenters, they're waterloss guys. They were never hired to do a pack out. Now they're sent out on a job and they're having to handle fine china. And number one, they might have a bit of an attitude. They're upset because they were never told during the hiring interview that they were going to be cross-trained to do pack-outs. So that could be a challenge. And having the job set up properly is part of what we're going to be going through today through this whole training. So digital photo inventory, on the other hand, is going to reduce the challenges with spelling, of figuring out the right description. It's going to improve your consistencies, and it's not going to be real time consuming. So that means that we're going to reduce some of those problems. And you might be thinking, how does digital photo inventory help us to reduce our breakage and damage compensation? We'll discuss it among your team right now. How would it help you to reduce the compensation paid out for breakage and damage? Well, number one, it's going to minimize those unsubstantiated claims, right? And two, it's going to give us a system that we can use as a team to be consistent. That in turn, now, when you present your clients with this inventory system and you show them a sample of how we do inventory, it's going to boost their confidence in our team, and they're not going to be watching over our shoulder every step of the way wondering if we're stealing things or if we're handling things properly. So we're answering that unasked question. If any of you have been through Strategies for Success and heard Steve Taburin talk about customer service, we want to answer those unasked questions that the insureds have. Are you honest? Are you going to take good care of my contents? Are you going to throw things around at your facility? Are you going to laugh at my contents and what I have, my photos and my entertainment? So we want to boost the client's confidence that we're professional and that we have documentation. And we're going to increase our profit margins because we're not going to have a lot of breakage, and our employees are going to be more confident because now they know that there's a system. Everybody should be on the same page using the same system. There's accountability, and if something is lost or broken, we've got documentation to prove whether or not we did it. Okay, so let's go back to that lamp. We want to look at the way that it was documented. Okay, so we've got a photograph of the item in place. And now we're going to take some up-close photographs. So the photographer noticed that we've got some chips down on the base of the lamp. So we can zoom in if we need to. And one thing that happened with this particular lamp is the insured accused the team of causing damage to it, right? And what their accusation was is if you can see the crackling, the crazing on the glaze, they accused the team of exposing this to high heat to cause that crazing. Well, let's do some research about crazing. The definition is that these are fine cracks resulting from shrinkage on the surface of glazed pottery, concrete, or other material. Okay, so shrinkage. And then we've got, it's an admired crackle effect in some oriental potteries and porcelains, and crazing is produced that way, but it can be produced in a foreseen and regulated way. And then in common pottery, it's often the result of exposure to undue heat and the beginning of disintegration. So we've got 3 different causes for crazing. And of course, the homeowner is going to say that this is due to the result of our neglect. But in reality, what we need to know is, was the crazing effect there during the pack out, or did it occur after the pack out during the cleaning process? So going back to our photos, these are photos from the pack out. We can see, you know, it's down here on the base. It's not at the top. So this is a pre-existing condition. So this is one of those woohoo moments because it's not our fault, only because we've got the photo documentation to back it up. Okay, photos are going to capture details that we missed because we didn't have good lighting at the job site, or because we're in such a rush. Now, I know this doesn't happen to any of you guys. You always schedule out your jobs. You've got plenty of time, right? Okay, reality is there are jobs that we're going to be busting our buns to get it done on time. So that means that we just don't have the time to examine everything properly. And can you imagine having to stop and write it down? But with photographs, we can shoot multiple photos very rapidly so that we have lots of photos. And, you know, as far as the lighting, you know, we've got a flash on our camera to back us up. So we want to take lots of photos from all different angles, and it's a very inexpensive way to do our inventory. So just what is DPI? It's based on a labeling system that starts with the number 001. And we're going to pre-print our labels, and then we're going to photograph the label, attach it to the box. It's very, very simple. So here's an example of a label. We're going to have the employee's initials, so that's me, BJ. The box size is a 1.5, and then where is it going to be routed to? This particular box is going to the ultrasonic machine, and it's got ceramics in it. Here's our inventory number. This is pre-printed along with the job name and the job number. So 3 fields are pre-printed. We don't have to worry about filling those in. Where are these items from? It's from the living room. And what item are they from? It's from the bookcase. And then what area of the item is it from? So these ceramics are from the top of the bookcase. Okay, so once we photograph the inventory label, then we're going to photograph the items that are associated with that box or that label number. And then our digital camera is going to assign sequential numbers to our photographs. So we can see here, this is photo 611, 612, 613, 614. If we decide that we don't like the photo we took of 623, it's blurry, it's not needed. If we were to delete 623, what's going to happen to that numbering system? it's actually going to leave a blank spot. So we're going to have photo 622 and photo 624, but this area is going to be left blank. And so you know what's going to happen then. You know, the homeowner is missing something, and they're going to say, oh, well, it was photographed in photo 623, and you must have deleted it and took it home with you. So we just don't want to leave any room for accusations. We don't have to share all of these photographs with the insured. We're going to take blurry photographs. If you don't want to share them, you always just want to have them stored in your backup files. So why DPI? It's really simple. All you need are point and shoot skills, and it's so much easier than trying to determine and write down those descriptions. And even, you know, as you're going up against other competitors, they may be using written inventories, or they might have some fancy software. You still can be very confident that you've got a thorough inventory system. I'm confident with it. It doesn't matter who else is out there, you know, my competitors, what they're doing. I can still produce a very good estimate. Okay, so we're going to have lots of photos to show the pre-existing conditions, and it's going to be an accurate system. It's going to be fast, efficient, and you can customize it to your system. As far as marketing it, go ahead, you know, print out your samples and explain to the insureds and the adjusters how you perform your inventories. So when we choose a digital camera, the number one thing that we're looking for is our shutter speed. How fast can it save photographs? So if you take a photo and you have to stand there and wait 5 or 10 seconds, that's way too long for me. It's dead time. So we want our camera to be fast and small. Don't feel that you need to go out and buy a $700 SLR automatic camera. All we want are real small, compact cameras that we can use around our neck. We're going to put our camera on a lanyard around our neck, and we can have it in our pocket. We can either have it in our jeans pocket or a 3-pocket apron that we recommend. So if you're just learning DPI now, I recommend practicing at your facility. Go through a couple of your offices and just do digital photo inventory. You don't have to pack the items, but just get used to photographing them. If you have total loss contents, practice on those. So try to be consistent as you implement DPI, just so that everybody in your team is used to using it. Okay, some of these photo inventory tips. We may have employees, team members that English is not their language, and we want to have them write down any kind of notes in their native language. We can always get it translated later, but there still may be some conditions that just don't photograph well at all, and these could be oil on the surface, a loose table leg, or maybe you have a trunk or some kind of box that is locked that doesn't open up. We want those conditions to be written down. You can use a wipe-off board. You can just use your packing paper and write the note and photograph it. And you'll see this in the job that I'll be sharing with you. And then, if possible, we want to do the inventory of each room before we go on to the next one. Things happen, and there's always an exception to the rule, and I'll tell you one right now. Usually when we get to a job site, we may need to make room in each room. So what we can do is, like for example, in a bedroom, the photo team could go to the bedroom and photo and inventory the bed. So we've got the headboard, the footboard, the rails, the bed frame, the mattress, and the box spring. So we may have like 6 separate different things that we can inventory and photograph, and then move on to the next room. Meanwhile, the packers are coming behind, and you've got all your labels prepared for that bed and all the components. And now the packers are going to wrap and pack every item and put the appropriate inventory sticker on the outside of the packaging material. Meanwhile, the inventory team is in the next room, and it might be the dining room, where they're going to inventory the table and chairs, and then the packers will come behind them and wrap those items. So that is a way that I do recommend starting out each job. So there's always, an exception to the rule. It's just kind of getting a grasp on the flow. So as we photograph items from the same room, we're going to be able to copy and paste them into folders with that room name, and it's going to keep our photos organized. And I'll explain this better later. Okay, and just a reminder, our DPI documents can be shared with everybody. We're going to have photos of the items that we packed, the condition of them, and we're also going to be able to track our handling process and our routing process. Try to stay dedicated to your system. Do it the same way on each job, so that as your crew members are going from job to job, that there's consistency with the inventories. So let's start at DPI. We've got our job assignment. We're at our job site, so we need to determine our starting point. Is it going to be the source area where the fire started? That might be a kitchen. You may not have access to it because the cause and origin team hasn't released the job site, so you may be forced to start somewhere else. Maybe the insured prefers you to start in a specific area. So there could be different factors that determine where we're going to start. We also need to set up a staging area. And this is what I call the space where all the supplies are brought into. So we're going to lay down a drop cloth, and we're going to bring in our box supplies and tapes and things, have them in a general area, which could be the garage, the front porch, the back patio, just some place where everybody knows where to get their supplies. And then we want to set up our packing stations throughout the house. We could have 1 station, we could have 10. The important thing is that, each team knows exactly what to do, but this whole DPI system is totally expandable according to how big of a job you have and how many pack-out members you've got. So number 1, we want to prepare our boxes. So our team members are going to consist of your Contentz manager, who is going to look at every single job, and then they're going to assign a supervisor for each job. Now, I hear that some insurance companies are pushing back that they don't want to pay for a supervisor on every job. In Pennsylvania, with my business liability insurance, I was required by my insurance carrier to have a supervisor on every single job, that I wasn't allowed, basically, to send out technicians to a job site unless they were trained and they were considered to be a supervisor. So then I should be able to charge the insurance company for a supervisor and the technicians. It doesn't make sense that you send out a team of workers to a job site and they don't have a supervisor. Okay, and then we have our lead technician, who is the supervisor's right-hand person, that when the supervisor is busy, this lead technician can lead the team. They can gather information as they need to under the supervision of the supervisor. And then we've got our technicians, who I call runners. And they're doing the busy work, such as preparing the boxes. Just having the boxes made and ready and setting in a specific area, it speeds up the whole process. Also having the pack out supplies. This is our Pack Out Essentials Kit. We sell this on our website. If you're interested in our kit, because you're listening in on today's webinar, you would get a 15% discount. But you just have to call and let us know so that we can apply the discount. But inside this kit, we've got 2 table covers. These are heavy-duty nylon covers. They're very durable. You can wash them, repeatedly, and they're going to last. We also have 4 of our 3-pocket work aprons, and these are great. Remember I mentioned earlier that we're going to have our camera around our neck on a lanyard. So we've got 2 lanyards here, and let me back up. You can see here that the technician has a lanyard around his neck with a digital camera. And he can just, when he's not using his camera, he can slip it into the pocket on his work apron, and it's handy. When you think about it, carpenters, they've got their work belts, they've got their nails and their small tools right at their fingertips. So we need to set up efficiencies for our team, our inventory team as well. I can't tell you how many times I'm searching around for a marker, or my camera's on the tabletop and it falls off on the floor. I mean, that's happened to me in the past. So that's why I developed the system and the supplies for the efficiencies. So now the camera's around our neck. It goes into our pocket on our belt. We've got pockets for our markers. And inside the kit, we also have Ziploc, a large zipper bag for our small supplies, such as our 12-inch rollers. We've got wipe-off boards, clipboards, and tabletop tape dispensers. And we also have a pin-on Post-it note holder. This pins on to the outside of the apron, so we have Post-it notes handy also. Some other supplies would be our portable table, our wrapping paper, other wrapping supplies, a ruler, or tape gun, Ziploc bags, our digital camera, our box supplies, and our labels. And here's a checklist. I've divided these up into the camera bag, the DPI labels, DPI crate, and this goes underneath the pack-out station. I recommend that every pack-out crew has their own DPI crate with the supplies handy that they're going to need. We also need our PPE gear, which is simply gloves and maybe some Tyvek suits, maybe some face masks. And then our portable folding tables, which I'll show you, our box supply, and our pre-cleaning supplies. So at our pack-out station, we want to create a drop-down station. And this is an elevated table, or it might be as simple as a closed-up box that we're using to elevate some of our packing supplies as needed. And definitely we want to elevate the box that we're loading, that we're packing. We're going to fill out our label. We're going to place it on the box. And here we go. And then we're going to photograph the contents that are going into that box. So we want to make sure that we've got our 12-inch roller in the photograph, and now we've got the items that we're photographing. So you can see here I'm photographing a group of items, and when I have items that are special or special value, now I'm going to take the time, turn them upside down, and photograph the markings. This is a very collectible piece. You can find them on the internet. And we want to make sure we've got our dimensions, regardless of the value of the piece. Looking at this little frame, you might think, oh, you can find it at the 99-cent store. It doesn't matter. We've got damage on it, and we want to have our dimensions. And then as we pack our boxes, we want to keep them in a holding area. So these particular boxes are all from the dining room. And you can see that it says dining room on each one of them. From a distance, you can see the box size, and we've got some fragile markings on here. So I purposely like to use the half sheet size labels because you can write information on here that can be visible from a distance. So I recommend using the Sharpie markers because it forces us to write big and legible. If we're writing with a pen, it's going to be very hard to read it. And then as far as our warehousing procedures, DPI is going to provide the documentation for those. And here's an example. We're going to have our vault number clearly identifiable. And then we've got 2 vault control sheets. The first one lists the job name, the date that the vault was filled. The percentage of the vault that's used is 100%. So imagine you're the forklift driver. This information is really important to you because now you know you've got a full vault. It's going to be heavy, and you may not have to worry so much about the items shifting inside the vault. But if it was only packed to 1/3 of its capacity, then you know you're going to have some shifting inside. We want to know the status of the contents inside the vault, and so this particular one is unprocessed, so these are dirty contents. The vault control sheet is used to write in the item number as it's being loaded into the vault. And then you can make a copy of this vault control sheet. One of them can go inside of your job binder. The other one obviously is going to stay on the vault. Now, in the documents that I sent you, I actually modified this form. And the first 3 columns have a heading for boxes, and the 4th column is for furniture, and it's highlighted in a different color. The reason I did that is now, just visually looking at the form, if the first 3 columns are loaded up, you know that this vault is full of boxes. But if you have anything listed in the furniture side and no boxes listed, then you know it's furniture, and you might want to be a little more careful even how you handle that vault. Also, if you're looking for a piece of furniture, if I'm looking at this vault control sheet, I can see there's no furniture in this vault, so I'm just going to pass it up and not worry about it. So it just gives you a visual that helps. Here we can see that all these vaults have contents inside them except for this vault. We've got no control sheet on it, and it says empty vault. If you notice in the previous photo here, this center control sheet, if you can just see faintly in the background, it says empty vault. That sheet is always inside of this job ticket holder, and then when we add a job to the vault, we're going to add the sheet that's going to cover that empty vault sheet. So now the forklift driver knows how to handle this vault as well. It's going to be, a lot lighter and easier to maneuver. Okay, I'm going to change out my screen, my PowerPoint here, and we're going to talk about a real job site. This is a job that was done on the East Coast. A client of mine, they hired us to design their facility. We did multiple training events at their location. They had this job scheduled for about 2 months in advance, but he had high turnover with his employees. And so he didn't have anybody, a supervisor that could run the project. So he hired me to fly in. I was living in Arizona at the time. So I flew in on a Sunday, got there Monday morning, and I met the crew, asked them if everything was packed onto the truck to go out to the job site, and they said, yeah, everything was ready to go. And so Monday morning, we drove an hour and a half to the job site. And I'm going to show you the house now. So it's a smaller house. The bathroom on the first floor, the toilet tank leaked clear water, and it went down into the basement. So our first task when we get to any job site is to take photographs of the outside, the inside. We want to plan how we're going to take the contents out of the home, and it might mean that we have to clear a path. So if it's wintertime, we may want to carry a shovel with us to the job site. If it just rained, or maybe there's still debris on the pathways, either inside the house or outside, we want to clean up. So one of my mottos is slow it down to speed it up. So we want to prep the job first. We don't want to just throw 10 people inside the job site and tell them they have to start doing a pack out. We have to prepare the property first. Okay, this is entering into that back door that I showed you. So we're looking down the stairwell. The bathroom is on the right side of us. So it leaked clear water, and we've got floor tiles that are lifting up. And there's also some drywall that's missing too. So here's the backyard, and we're going to enter into this back door and bring the contents out through the yard and down the driveway. Well, it had just rained, and the grass and the leaves were still wet. I was just concerned with a new crew, walking down here with artwork, because there's a lot of artwork in the basement that we're packing out. Oh, excuse me. There's a lot of artwork in the basement that we have to pack out, and so I'm just concerned about the safety, that I don't want anybody slipping on the wet grass and then breaking items. So I'm going to start thinking about, is there another option? So here's our truck, and we can see the concrete's dry, but the grass is still wet. So looking around the house, one of the options is that we could take the contents upstairs, go through the kitchen and the living room to go out the front porch and down the stairwell. So it might seem like as we go through this job scenario, I'm going to be talking about a lot of different ideas and options, ways to perform the job. And I'm not trying to make it tedious. I just want you to see the thought process, that when we go into a job site, we're always thinking about all these different factors. Managers and owners, you just do this naturally, but a lot of times the technicians don't realize all the different scenarios and options that we're considering all the time. And so, this is really to help the technicians to understand what goes on behind the scenes. Okay, so if we're going to be bringing the contents up the stairwell and through the kitchen and the living room, we need to make sure that everything is protected. Number one, these areas are not part of the claim. So managers, owners, what's that ding, 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 ding that's going off in your head right now? It should be that now we're just increasing our exposure and our liabilities, because now we're working in an area that's not part of the claim. So we want to make sure that we protect all the insured's furniture, that we protect the surfaces like the floors, their door jambs, anything that there's a potential of us chipping or knocking into, we need to go through and protect it. Okay, we are going to have to pass by this unit here. And let me just give you some insight on what's on the unit. We've got hand-blown glass. We've got wooden items. This gentleman owned an art gallery, and so he closed the art gallery down because of the economy, and he brought a lot of his stock back to his home. So we've got on this shelf, these three pieces are each worth $800. So we've got $2,400 retail value on this shelf alone. This raven is worth $1,400 retail. And you know, with our iPhones and the technology that we've got in the palm of our hand, we can do research at the job site. We can write down the artist's name, the gallery name, and we can go out to our work van and do some of our own research to justify or to make sure that the prices that they're telling us are accurate. So I did that. I confirmed that, yep, these are retail prices that he's telling me about. So when you look at the bottom of these 3 cabinets, they're filled with this black pottery. So we've got about, I've calculated $50,000 to $60,000 worth of artwork in this unit. So let me ask you, what would you do if you had to walk past this unit with boxes of contents? What would you do with the unit? So some options are, number one, you just wouldn't take this route. You could avoid it. If you had to do it, one option would be to have the insured pack up all of their contents that you see, and that would minimize your liabilities because now your team isn't handling these items, the homeowner is. Another option would be to pack all these items, and then you're also going to inventory them if you're going to do that. So you may be adding some expense to the entire job by having to do that. Somebody in class said they would put covers over this so that it didn't get scratched. Again, what's appropriate for the job site and for this particular job. Okay, so another thing, this is his dining room. This is upstairs. This is not part of the claim, but I just was trying to get a feel for his first floor to find out if we had to go through here, what are we dealing with? So I just asked him, can I take some general photographs? So what do you see here that's a red flag that you want to document because it shows how the insured stores their contents? Okay. One major thing is the fact that he's got boxes directly on his wooden surface of his table, okay? And then as I'm talking to him, this is the same dining room, he tells me that these are Russell Wright pictures, that he's been collecting them for years, and that these are worth about $100 a piece. So he's got 3 of the pictures. The teapots are probably worth about the same amount of money, and the plates inside the cabinet are worth about $55 a piece. So he's very proud of his collection. He's telling me about it. So I'm taking my photographs. When I look online, I could see that Russell Wright has been a collectible item, but they're also mass producing them still from the same factory. So these are current, which is good news for me, because that means if I broke one of them, it'd probably be easy enough to replace them. Okay, now we've got an oil painting, a watercolor. He tells me that this is worth $15,000. So if you notice my note, I'm writing down that the homeowner said that the watercolor is worth $15,000. I'm not stating that it's a watercolor. I'm not stating that it's worth $15,000. I'm simply writing down what the homeowner told me. This is crucial for you guys because we don't want to ever overstate what an item is. We don't want to incriminate ourselves or our company. We are not appraisers, if we're not art experts, and so we don't want to say or write anything down that could cause us problems later. To give you an example, another one of my clients said that they were actually doing DPI, and one of their employees wrote down that they were packing up a Thomas Kincaid painting. Well, the photograph showed that it was a print under glass in a frame. So it was not an oil painting. And they had their photos, and during the pack back, they gave the insured the written inventory along with the photographs. Well, the homeowner says, where's my Thomas Kincaid painting? And they said, well, let's go through the photos. And they showed the photo, and it was a print under glass. And they said, well, this isn't a Thomas Kincaid painting. And they're like, but this is what we packed. And the homeowner says, I don't care what you say you packed or the photo that you're showing me. You wrote down that you had a Thomas Kincaid painting, and it, by the way, it was worth $5,000. And so they were actually going after the restoration company, and they wanted to be compensated for this imaginary Thomas Kincaid painting. So please, when I show you my photographs, you're going to think they're so basic and so simple, and that I'm skimming over providing enough information. That's not the case. I'm protecting myself by not overstating what we're packing out. Okay, along the pathway, there's another 3 watercolors. So all I can do is assume that these are worth $18,000 a piece as well. So now, right here, I've got close to $60,000 worth of liability. So again, are you going to have the insured take these down? Or are you going to take them down and make sure they're safe? This is all part of the decision-making process. And to take these down, and if you had to wrap them, imagine the labor. You have to think about how much time is it going to take, and am I able to charge for it? We also want to look for pre-existing structural damage. So if you can see on your screen, there's 3 areas that look like fingerprints. So you're thinking, okay, why am I worried about structural damage when we're here to do a pack out of contents? Well, you're in the home, so accusations could be made that we soiled something, that we nicked or dented something. So I like taking detailed photographs of the structure itself when we're going to be working in the area. Here's just a general photo of his fireplace, and I had these photos for a couple years now, and only when my client told me about the oil painting leaning on the fireplace and it causing a fire. Now when I look at this is a wooden Thailand Burmese puppet, right? And it's on his fireplace. So, I didn't notice this for a long time, that this could be a fire hazard. But, my photo's still here. Years later, I still have evidence that this is how he had his home when we were working on his property. So, a year could go by before an accusation is brought up. So your photos are still going to be there for you. So my rule of thumb is every single day of the pack out, go through the house and photograph the areas. You don't know who is in the home over, through the night, and things can get moved around, and it's not that anybody's trying purposely to damage anything, but accidents happen, and we don't want to be held responsible for them. Okay, this is in the basement area of the home, and you can see where the drywall has been cut out and the floor tiles are lifting. So to give you a little bit of background on this job, the water damage occurred, and a general contractor was brought in to dry it out. So he set up his drying equipment, he cut out the drywall, and had air movers in here that blew around the drywall dust. So there's 2 reasons why we're packing out. Number 1 is because the drywall needs to be replaced and the floors need to be lifted and replaced. So we need to get the contents out of there. The number 2 reason is because there's drywall dust on all the furniture. So whoever did the dry out didn't set up any kind of containment. So we're doing a pack out, a cleaning, and a pack back. And my client gave a not to exceed price. They accepted it 2 months prior to us doing the job. Ironically, when I got there in the morning that day, the general contractor who dried the place out was there and reminded the client that this was going to be a $26,000 pack out. Well, he he hadn't remembered that. He freaked out, and he said, you know what, I'll just keep the money. I could use $26,000, and I'll just donate the artwork. Well, we tried to explain to him it doesn't really work that way, that the work has to be done in order to be paid for it. So if he chooses not to pack out the artwork and he just donates it, that money's not going to be there for him. So it kind of slowed the job down in the morning until he talked to his adjuster. And, but it was just interesting that up until that point, his artwork was so valuable until he thought he could get $26,000 for it, and then he was willing to donate it. So, here we've got an area where the drywall's cut out, holes in the wall. And this is the morning of the second day. These are the contents that are still in the room. And what's wrong with the picture? What do you see here that you don't like? I don't like the fact that there's a box on the wood surface. So this was an employee who did this in the morning. I instructed her, not to do that again. She did it again in the afternoon. So number one, are we making it easy for our employees to do the right thing? And number two, what happens when an employee doesn't follow instructions and it could cause damage? So is it verbal warning the first time, a written warning the second time, third time, you let go? So it's a decision that you have to make within your own company. I had a gal working for me, and she just felt that she knew more than everybody else. And she had a drawer from a wooden dresser, and she had it immersed in water at the sink at the shop. So I went over, and first time I saw her do this, I'm like, what are you doing? Get that out of the water. It's not how we clean things. And she disagreed with me. She thought it was perfectly safe to immerse a wooden drawer in the water. So I spoke with her, and a few days later, I saw her do the exact same thing. So I had to let her go. I fired her on the spot. I gave her the verbal warning the first time, and the second time, she obviously wasn't willing to follow directions. So we need to know, we need to identify the liabilities even sometimes within our own team, that if team members have a hard time catching on to restoration, they themselves could be a liability for the whole team. And I know it's really drastic. It's the only time I ever fired somebody on the spot. But, it's all about limiting our liabilities for our team. Now, what needs special handling in this photograph? We've got some really heavy items. The homeowner told me that this is concrete, this one's granite, and this item is flagstone. So we needed the guys to help us out with those heavy items. I asked the homeowner what needed special attention, and he pointed to this glass bookcase unit. And he said, don't take anything apart. After you pack up all the contents, just put the entire glass unit on the truck, wrap it in stretch wrap. So discuss among your team, would you have done it that way? I explained to him that I couldn't do it that way, and I asked him, why do you want us to keep it intact? And he said he was afraid of the small metal brackets breaking. And I said, if they do break, I can get those replaced, but I can't put this unit on the truck. It's going to break, and I'm going to have broken glass inside the truck, and you're going to lose your piece. So we took it all apart. But the point is, we can't always follow the direction of the insured. We have to make sure that we know what we're doing and we can identify our own liabilities. So among yourselves, discuss, how would you pack these CD towers? We've got 4 of them, and they've got 4 stacks of CDs on them. And each stack of CDs, there's probably, I'm going to say 40 CDs. Okay, so each unit has 160 CDs on it, times 4 units. How much is that? 4 times 160 is 640 CDs. Now, if they're worth a minimum of $10 a piece, that means that we've got $6,400 worth of CDs right here. So this is a liability for us, right? It's a potential problem. So what we want to do is, well, let me tell you what the homeowner told me to do. He said, Barb, just make it easy on yourself and stretch wrap each of the CD towers with everything intact. So would you have done it that way? What are the issues with inventory that we're concerned with? Well, the major thing that I want to know is how many of these are empty cases. So what we did was we photographed each stack of CDs. You could take like 1 or 2, well, 2 or 3 photos of each stack. Remember those Post-it notes that we have? We can label these A, B, C, D, and then each stack, each row is 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we photograph each stack. And we're probably going to be able to see some of the names and titles of the CDs. And then we're going to empty each stack. We're going to open up every single CD. And you're probably cringing right now. But we want to know how many empty cases we have. And we're going to set those aside. And you may choose to get a count of how many actual CDs you've got and load them into the boxes. And as we put these in boxes, we don't want to just, make our own little stacks inside the boxes. These cases are going to get swirl all inside the box. So what I recommend is having a stack of like 6 or 10 CDs, wrapping them in paper, and then placing those in the box. We might want to create a nest in the bottom of the box and on the sides so that the CDs don't get crushed. But the point is something that could have just taken us maybe 5 minutes a piece to just wrap them as is. Now if we think about having to open all these CDs, this one project now could take an hour. So it may increase the time on a job site, but we're limiting our liability. And that's always a delicate balance that we're trying to find on our job sites. So every job is different. We have to make on-the-job decisions as to what's most important and proceed accordingly. Here's another example. These are orange crates. They're stained and they're simply stacked on top of each other. They're wobbly. So the homeowner said just to go ahead and pack the crates as they are. But we need to think about what's the best way to pack items. With books, we want to stack them. We've got mixed media in some of these crates, and we always want to think about where are we going to process the contents. So if we stretch wrapped a crate with books inside of it, think about the cleaning stations where you'd process these. The books are going to go to a dry processing area, maybe some modular tables that you've got set up. But where's the crate going to be cleaned? We're probably going to be able to wet wash it. We're going to wring out our cloth and wet wipe the outside of the crates. We're not going to immerse them in the water, but we are going to be able to wet wash them, and maybe they need some polish. But there's 2 totally different functions, so we don't want this crate filled with books going to the same station, because now we've got water over near our books. So we don't want that. So we're always thinking about where are we going to process the items. So we're going to pack our books separately, and we can stretch wrap those crates and just handle them carefully. The other thing is we could put the crates inside of large plastic bags, clear bags, so we can see what's inside the bag and make them lightweight, easy to handle. Okay, where would you begin here? A lot of people say let's get rid of let's pack up the garments. In this case, these are clean garments, so they're not going to be going out to the dry cleaners. So they might just need to go up to his, first floor and be placed in a closet. Okay, another thing that we're going to take some time with are the non-transportables, and we're going to talk about that later. But we want to identify non-transportable items that we're not going to transport to our shop and get those out of the way. Now this is an important photograph because this is a chest style freezer, but it doesn't look to me like he's using it as a freezer. He's using it to store empty boxes. So again, a really critical photograph. Here we've got a walk-in closet that you can't walk into, so we're going to pack the items at the beginning and work our way in as we go. So where's our hidden pack-out pitfall in this photograph? Discuss it among yourselves. What are your concerns with what you see? Okay, remember he was talking about his pictures, his Russell Wright pictures worth $100 a piece. He's not storing them as carefully as he did upstairs, right? So this is a major issue. So we want really good photographs. He's got all the handles are up against a block wall. He's got his plates stacked against the wall. And what's the concern about these bottom plates? Remember, these are ceramic. They're pretty heavy. And he's got, about 30 or 40 plates stacked. All the weight is on these bottom plates. So we can expect to see some stress fractures, and we want to be really careful as we handle these items. If we were to just put them in the ultrasonic machine, those cracks could just, split and cause breakage. So what I'm trying to show you is the fact that we're looking for inconsistencies. Upstairs he was very concerned about those pieces, but yet down here he's not taking real good care of them. There's even a picture over here. And then we've got this handmade item. He's in his 50s. He probably made this in grade school, and it could be considered retro art or maybe an antique. We don't know. It could be a collectible, but it's got like 50 cents worth of bottle caps and some scrap wood on it. If we lose it, all of a sudden it's folk art that's worth $350. So we want to establish how we found the items. And we've got this whole avalanche thing going on here. But what are we looking at? We've got some ceramics, we've got some collectible Coke bottles, we've got more California pottery on the shelving, and we've got this guy picking out of the corner. So this is Cherry, and he's from Pee Wee Herman's Funhouse, which the movie is over 30 years old. It's timeless, right? But we've got this piece. It could be a collectible. If he bought this when the movie came out, then it might, really be worth some money. But we can see that it's just stashed over in the corner. It's getting crushed. So we just want to document that. He's got a lot of non-transportable items. So cleaning agents, fluids, combustibles. We don't want to transport these items. So just a matter of asking them, would you like us to box these up? We can, maybe have some place upstairs, or we could keep them in an area in the basement. They might just need to be moved around when the floor is being laid. But the point is, open communication, find out what he wants done with those items. Okay, this is the morning of the second day, and the first day was a challenge for me. I flew in on Sunday night. I'm working with a crew I didn't know. I asked, did they stock everything on the truck? My mistake was I didn't open up the truck and look on the inside to make sure what they had ready. So when we got to the job site, We didn't have our folding tables for our pack-out station. We didn't have our table covers. We didn't have markers and 12-inch rollers. So I take responsibility for that. I was the supervisor. I should have made sure, what was on the truck. So we drive an hour and a half to the job site and figure out we don't have some of our major supplies. And we've got a big box truck, so it's not something you just jump in and go to Home Depot and buy what you need. So it would have wasted too much time trying to go buy the things we needed, and it was too long of a drive to get back to the shop. So one of my mottos is to adapt, create, and proceed. So we had to adapt to the situation, create a solution, and just get on with it. Well, the insured said that he took the day off because he was told that a consultant was coming in to do his pack out of his artwork, and he wanted to be there and work with me. And it's like, oh no. So, we weren't prepared to be able to work with his artwork. Fortunately, the entire center of this room was full of Contentz. There was no way that we could even access all the artwork that we see on the shelving units. So that first day had to be spent packing out the center of the room. So what we did, we had to create these portable pack-out stations, and they're just made out of medium-sized boxes that are leaning on their flaps, and they're strapped together. So remember, I'm showing you the good, bad, and the ugly. We put these together. We had 2 of them. It created a workspace. There was no way that I wanted to pack out artwork on these stations. We put moving pads over them, and we were able to pack that entire day working off of these surfaces. So, we got through that first day, and the second day we were prepared. So there's just some general photos of the area, and we want to get the insured talking. While they're honest, we want to ask them, what's high value? Do you have anything that is sentimental? Do you have anything that's broken that everybody in the family knows not to touch it, and we're going to have to touch it today? So could you please identify those items for me so that we can take extra special care of them? And so we just want people to relax and tell us about their contents. We want to ask questions, and if we see something unique, we want to say, like this item, it's 4 inches across and about 6 inches high, and the crane's neck is about 1/4 of an inch thick. So it's really, really delicate, and it's worth $1,400. And I did verify it online. It was currently being, that's the retail value. So I said, do you have any special way that you'd like us to pack this? Do you have the original packaging material? No, he didn't. So now we have to decide, how we're going to wrap it so it stays secure. He pointed out that he has a lot of raku pieces. And raku is spelled R-A-K-U, and it's a unique type of ceramic process where the first firing is in the kiln. They take it out of the kiln and they let it cool off. Then they heat up wood chips in a metal garbage can, basically, and they have the wood chips burning. They make sure the fire goes out, and now they've got these glowing embers, and they put the pottery directly into the embers. Well, the smoke that is coming off the embers actually creates a design in the pottery. So why am I spending so much time telling you about raku? Because it's a very porous ceramic. There's different styles of it. And number one, it's going to be hard to clean it. To wet wash it, because it's porous, it's actually going to absorb the water from, the cleaning solution. This is really delicate ceramic as well. Every single scale on the lizards and on the leaves, everything is hand cut. So these are those pieces that are worth $800 a piece. So we saw some of them upstairs. Now we see more down here that we have to pack out. Again, these are very porous. They're real lightweight. They're like a bisque ceramic. So we have to take extra special care with them. This is also examples of raku. I asked him if he had anything that had moving parts, multiple parts, lids, whatever. So he pointed these out, and this is actually two pieces. This square tube actually pulls out of this piece of artwork. These square tubes are separate. So can you imagine if you had a temporary worker that didn't know anything about packouts or moving? If they come over here and just pick this up with one hand, everything's going to fall on the floor, you know, these loose parts, and it would cause damage. So these pieces, again, are worth hundreds of dollars. Here are more examples of raku. We've got feathers and beads and leather on them. These are raku pieces, and you can see more literally the designs that the flames make on the pieces. So between the type of glaze that they use and the time spent in the embers, it determines the colors that show up on the pieces. So these are very, very delicate pieces. We've got granite pieces, hand-painted wooden items. This piece here is raku. This is raku as well. So remember the crazing that we talked about earlier? This was designed so that it would craze, and the black marks are actually soot. We've got more raku here, and we've got lots of small items, lots of hand-painted pieces. So we guesstimated there was about $100,000 worth of artwork in the basement here, maybe more. And, you know, just looking at it initially, you might not have guessed that. But when you add up each individual piece, it really does add up in value. This is raku. We've got hand-carved pieces. These are heavy, one piece of wood. These are bed springs with repurposed metal. And now we've got some pieces that are multiple parts. So you may be looking for this PowerPoint in your handouts, and the reason that I don't have it included is because it is someone's personal home. So with the privacy law and stuff, I don't feel comfortable passing this one out. So just so you know, it wasn't an oversight on our part not to include it. But if you want specific slides from this, or if you have any specific questions, just let me know. So we're going to get started. We were talking about asking specific questions about people's contents. So in this photo, we've got items that have multiple pieces. We've got the sugar and creamer set. We've got the little creamer and the sugar bowl, and the hat is actually a lid. And then we've got our two dogs in the back corner, and these each have lids. So among yourselves, discuss what could be inside of these vases or urns. We have to be really careful with items like these because these could be urns that have ashes in. So maybe it's their beloved pet. Other homes, I mean, we've heard horror stories where a vase is knocked over, dirt falls out, and the carpet cleaners just, vacuum it up. So we don't want to ever vacuum up grandma. So we have to be really careful, ask a lot of questions, handle things delicately. The unique thing about the clock is that the lid is actually a lid, I'm sorry, is actually removable, and in behind it is a secret compartment where valuables could be stored. So we've got a lot of multiple pieces on this one shelf. Here's a close-up of the urn with a lid. So even as we go to handle this piece, we want to move the item out that's in front of it, and then we want to handle this piece with two hands. So I might put my one hand around the thick part right here, put my other hand on the lid, or just, hold it steady, take the lid off, and pull it out separately. Okay, here we've got another piece of raku. And we've got 3 jewelry holders, which he says are worth about $250. And then we've got 2 lamps made out of recyclable material, and he says that these are worth $250. So I don't remember if that was each or both of them. Either way, we've got a lot of value on this one table. Okay, so this is the area that we're working in. Remember the first day we had to get all the everyday type of contents out of the area. We had 2 crews working. One was in the basement area, and they were packing up the non-transportables and getting the clothes out of the way and packing up some of those items. So now this is the morning of the second day. I'm only on this job site for 2 days. So my first day was just spent organizing the job, and the second day we are getting set up, and we have to get all the artwork packed because I leave that night. The third day they finished up some of the items in the bathroom. Is anybody experiencing any audio problems? If you could just write me a message. I'm getting a message from GoToMeeting that my audio might not be good. If you could just write me a note and let me know you can hear me. Okay, I'm going to continue going. I'm going to assume that you can hear me. Okay, so we have 7 people total working on this job site. And okay. Hi, I realize you might be having some audio problems. Could you let me know if you can hear me? Okay. So let me back up because I'm not sure when I lost audio. But we've got 7 people working in a 15 by 20 area. So would you ever have so many people in such a tight space and when you're surrounded by artwork? Well, we didn't really have much of a choice, so we made it work. And the way that we did this is we set up 3 pack-out stations. And we've got a guy and a girl working at this one station. If you notice, their pack-out table is real close to the area that they're packing. We've got this guy and gal working on that glass unit that we showed you. I'm working by myself in the corner. And then we have Ken. He's one of the runners. So we have 7 people. 6 of them are in the photograph. The 7th guy is also a runner. So we've got 3 pack-out teams. There's 5 of us doing packing and inventory, and 2 guys are runners. Okay, so Ken here, all he's doing right now is snapping off 2-foot sections of bubble wrap, and he's stacking those up and supplying each of the teams with that. The purpose is so that the inventory teams are not having to do large motions inside their packing area. So can you imagine if this team had to worry about snapping off sections of bubble wrap? You know, they've got this big roll of supplies, and now they're making these real big movements to cut off the sections. So the idea is that once we're set up at our packing station, that everything is real compact. We're not making a lot of movement. We're working really close to the contents that we're packing. And that's going to eliminate somebody coming up from behind us and bumping into us and we drop something. So we just got to make the most of our situation and work very tightly in our station. Okay, here's my station. And you can see it's kind of messy looking, no doubt. But my station is, I'm using a 37-inch high pack-out station. And you can purchase these at Sam's Club, Costco. Sometimes Target or Walmart have them in the camping area. But they're 2 feet across and 4 feet wide. They can fold in half. And they raise up 3 levels. One is 22 inches high, and then I think there's 30 and then 37 inches high. So this is at my waist level. So if I work off of a banquet style table, my back is killing me by the end of the day. So these small tables are great. So I've got my table cover. Here we're just using black sheets. We use twin size sheets that we got like at Target, cut them in half. But they don't last real long. They're not real durable. That's why we created our own heavy-duty ones. I've got my empty boxes, and I've got that drop-down station for me right now is just a loaded box. And on top of that, I've got my empty box. The runners are bringing me empty boxes so that I'm packing up the contents on this shelving unit, and I'm using my tabletop. So this is my world right now. Until I pack up this shelving unit, I'm not moving out of my space. And the runner, his job is just to keep me supplied with all the supplies I need so that I'm not leaving my space. And this is where we get our efficiencies, that every person has something to do, and you know, they know what to do. With our shelving units, we can label these so that it's easier to load them up later. So the way that we did this one is we've got them numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across. Letters are going down A, B, C, D, E. So we're using those Post-it notes and we're labeling the shelves so that now that we have our photos, as we unpack contents for the pack back, we can direct the team where to put the items. So if a shelf unit has contents on it where the contents should go to 2 different cleaning stations, like for example, we've got a raku ceramic base and we have 2 wooden figurines. So I'm going to be packing the wooden figurines with these pieces of wooden items over here. So the contents of the shelf are not all going to go into the same box, but when we unpack the job, then they have to come back, you know, and be placed on the appropriate shelves. And we can do that during the pack back. We can reapply our Post-it notes and remark all the shelves the right way. And then we can put everything back, and then those little Post-it notes just, you know, come right off. They don't leave any residue, and we're all organized. It just makes life so much simpler. Okay, we're using those boxes that we taped together the day before, and Ken has just cut off 2-foot sections of bubble wrap. Well, now he's got the empty tubes. We save those. So we can use those for supports inside of a box. You know, put one in all the 4 corners of a box. You can roll up posters or paperwork and place them inside so they don't get wrinkled. You can use the tubes like for sharp items. If you have a sword or something, you can tape off the one end, and now, you know, the sword is protected. So just think about reusing some of these leftover items. Now on my station, it looks kind of messy from here. This is real life. So I've got my labels and my ruler. I've got one estimating sheet. This is the only thing that I have you write anything down on. We've got a wipe-off board, marker, pen, tape dispenser. The nice thing about the tape dispenser is that as I'm wrapping, I'm working by myself, remember? So as I wrap a vase in bubble wrap, I can keep one hand on the vase to keep it stabilized. I can just snap off a piece of tape with my other hand. But if I had to rely on a tape gun, I wouldn't be able to have, I don't have 3 hands. So I can't leave a hand on the vase. I have to use 2 hands to snap off the tape from the tape gun. So these tabletop dispensers just totally speed things up. On this side, I've got a drop-down station that has packing paper on it. I'm not using my packing paper very much because I want to use mostly bubble wrap. Now, I just finished loading up this box, and my runner is standing close by. He just taped up the box, and now he's going to just spin around and put the box in a holding area at the base of the stairwell. When we all get enough boxes that need to be transported to the truck, 3 guys are going to go to the truck. One of them is going to be on the truck at all times for security reasons. And the other 2 runners are going to be coming and going inside the house, bringing boxes out to the truck. So the point is we want to always make sure that our truck is secured, that when they finish loading it up, they're going to lock it before they come back into the house. This is me looking over from my station to the other teams. So this guy and gal are working to the right. This team just emptied this whole glass unit, and Ken is here, and he's snapping off some bubble wrap. So I have to tell you that throughout the whole pack out, the cleaning process at the shop, and the pack back, nothing got broken. So it was a very successful pack out. But the thing is, you know, we're setting the pace on this pack out. We kind of had the glitch the first day. We dealt with it. Now the second day, we can just hustle and get the artwork packed properly. We've got sturdy tables to work off of. We've got all the tools that we need. Okay, so here's our first item that I'm packing. So I'm starting out with label 26, which means that the other team members have 1 through 25, and so that doesn't matter. The employees working on this is myself and Ken. It's a tagged item, which means that it's not in a box, and it's going to the hand cleaning station for furniture at the facility. It's from the basement, and it's a glass top. So we want to first of all show how the insured stored their contents. So I'm concerned because they've got these really sharp edges on top of a glass surface. So we remove those, and now we're going to photograph the table as we see it. My second label now is just for the chrome base of the table. You can see that when you use your flash with these labels, if you don't set your camera up properly, if you're parallel to the label, the flash is just going to bounce right back off of the label and cause this blurring. So I retook the copy of it. Now I'm photographing the base of the table, and we've got some more contents. I'm documenting how the insured stored their contents, and as we put them over at the station, I can see some scratches. And with this backdrop, this is just a moving pad that we had over those cardboard boxes. You can see that, and we're just not getting the quality of the photographs as if we would have had a dark background. And that's the value of the dark table covers. Okay, so multiple photographs, and next is a cash register. So this happens to be another team member. This isn't me. He asked me if I could take a photograph and document his item. because it was really heavy and they wanted to get it out of the basement. So we took a few photographs of it. And just so you know, I'm not showing you every single photograph from this job site. I only had one camera, and I'm not sharing all of my photos with you because it would just be too painful. I'm just trying to show you some basic concepts with these photos. Okay, our next item is a tagged item. It's going to be cleaned at the furniture station, and it's a table. So we put it up on our station. We're going to photograph the damage that we see. We've got some scratches. And imagine if you had to write down the damage that you see on the bottom of this table. How would you even describe it? Well, we've got a marking here. We've got all kinds of scratches around the edges. We've got faded paint. And how about this one? We've got faded paint all around here. And it's not a problem. It's just the underside. And, the top side was painted properly, but this is the underside. Do we want to waste all that time trying to write down a description of what we see? The next item is tagged, and it's the reindeer rack. Our next item is a box. It's a 1.5 to be hand cleaned. So we photograph the label, and then we photograph the contents going into the box. Here I've wiped the lamp with my fingertip. I had a glove on, and I just wiped it off so that you can see the contrast. Just do that every now and then as you're doing your pack out, especially when it's really bad soot or residue, because sometimes the adjusters forget or the insureds forget just how bad the residue level was during the pack out. And if an adjuster pushes back and says, you know what, that was a light clean, when we have photographs like these, it shows the true extent of the damage. And realize that we're not always going to get the best photos. Be familiar with your camera and its ability to do the close-up photos. The flash is going to wash out the detail on metal items, shiny items, paper. And remember that first day we didn't have a roller, so we still wanted to get some kind of scale. And so we're using a pen in the photograph. Ideally, it's not the best thing to do. Again, we just adapted. So now we've got a ruler to show the dimensions. And the next item is a 1.5 size box to be hand clean. It's artwork on slate. So multiple photographs. We flip it over. You can see the old glue marks. And now we're packing a 1.5 size box to be hand cleaned. And these are acrylic art pieces. So we've got our ruler, and we tried to photograph the signature on this piece, and it just wasn't photographing well. So we wrote down what it said on a piece of paper, and we photographed it. Took a photo of all the different pieces, and we could see some chips here, but I wanted to make sure they stood out. So I just slanted my pen away from the artwork so I wouldn't get any ink on it, and outlined very carefully the edges. And my note now is on paper that's going to be used as wrapping paper. I don't need to save those notes because I photographed them. The next 1.5 size box is to be hand cleaned, and some photos. And we've got another 1.5 to be wet washed, and it's the box with the exercise ball inside of it. So we want to be really careful. We're going to clean the exercise ball, we're going to wet wash it, but now with the box itself, it's all part, it's meant to be together. So we can just wipe off the box, and we might want to ask questions when we see price tags on things. Maybe he was planning on returning the item. We don't know. So the point is, we don't want to just assume it's okay to throw away boxes until we find out, are they part of a collectible, which would, determine the value of the collectible. And if we're going to throw things away, then I personally would include them in the total loss list. Even though it's not going to have any value, at least we listed it and we got the signature for the insured that it was okay to dispose of the item. Okay, now we're using a 3.0 size box, and it's for storage only, and it's some pillows. These were in a black plastic bag that had drywall dust on the bag itself, but everything, these pillows inside were perfectly clean, and they just needed to be stored. So here are the DPI procedures. You would have this sheet with all your handouts, with all the documents that you received, but this is your cheat sheet. You can print this, laminate it, and send this out with the crew so that they can look at it at the job site and make sure that they're, doing the procedure properly. It's going to help them to do it right. Okay, so as we enter a room, first thing we want to do is write the room name on our wipe-off board and photograph it. And photograph the room left to right, top to bottom. Look inside drawers, doors, cabinets. Photograph structural things that you see. And then those are considered our general room photos. If you ever use POI software, or if you're currently using any other software, it's still good practice. And then as we inventory our box, first thing we're going to do is fill in the label with the employee's initials, what room it is in, and then we're going to photograph the label, place it on the box, and then we're going to photograph the contents where we find them. If we need more photographs, we can bring them over to our pack-out station and take more photos, enter our information on the estimating form. And you're probably thinking, boy, what a trick. Barb told us this was all photographs and no writing. Well, we're just going to write something very, very basic. If it's a 1.5 size box of dishes, we're just going to write down dishes. If it's a box of books, box of toys, whatever it is, we want to be very, very vague. So again, we don't want to incriminate ourselves. The other things I don't want you to write down is things like antique or silver plated or brass. We don't want to commit that we know what these surfaces are. We can look at something, just because something is old doesn't classify it as an antique. Just the word antique imputes value to an item. So, might sound odd to you, but I'd rather you'd be really, really vague and let the photographs tell the story. Okay, when we have items that would not fit into a box, then we want to fill in our label, photograph the label, and then we're going to photograph the item where we find it, take any additional photographs, move it around, flip it upside down, open up drawers, doors, look inside, take photographs. And then we're going to write in basic information on our estimating sheet. All we want to know is what is the piece that's being packed. Is it a chair? Is it a sofa? Is it a upholstered chair? And we really need the size on chairs, sofas, bookcases, beds, because in Xactimate, if we're billing by the line item, to clean a twin-size bed is going to be a lot less expensive than cleaning a king-size bed. So our estimator needs to know the sizes and dimensions on pieces of furniture so that they can charge appropriately for them. And then we want to place a small label on a tie-on shipping tag. So the large labels that I showed you, those you're going to pre-print with the job name, job number, and the inventory number. Well, you have a document that lets you print, I think it's 6 or 8 labels to a sheet, and it's exactly the same as the large label, except you're not going to be able to fill in, like pre-print, any information. So you're going to handwrite everything onto that small label, put it on a tie-on shipping tag, and tie it to the furniture. So why are we creating two labels? The one tie-on shipping tag is going to be tied onto the furniture, and it's going to stay on the furniture throughout the whole cleaning process. And then the large label is going to be placed on the packaging material. When that piece gets to your shop and you're ready to clean it and you remove the packaging material, your label is going to be on that material and you're going to lose your label. So we want to keep all the information tied to that piece of furniture on that shipping tag. Okay, and then as we're wrapping furniture, we want to put an X on the top front of the item so that when we return it to the house during the pack back, that the guys know how to place it against the wall so that they don't take all the packaging material off and realize that the drawers are facing the wall. So it's going to save time. It's all about efficiencies. Okay, so here we are. We're using our wipe-off board. And anybody see the typo here that I did? I forgot to put the E on armoire. So just the most innocent things that, you know, it's a spelling error. I didn't notice it for a while. Someone pointed it out to me. So the least amount of writing that we do, the better. Okay, so now I'm going to photograph the top of the armoire. And we see a knocked over vase. A vase is upside down, and everything's kind of just, you know, crammed in. This is, you know, normal life. And we've got Gumby, we've got a vase upside down. So now we're ready to pack our box. It's a 1.5 to be wet washed in the ultrasonic machine. The reason that we write down the routing information is so that when we look at our boxes, you know, opening up our vault at your facility, we're going to pull out the boxes and we're going to load up the rolling racks with boxes per each station. So if we're going to clean ultrasonics today, then I want to have 12 or 16 boxes that go through the ultrasonic machine. And when I get them to my station, I want to ensure that all the contents in those boxes go through the ultrasonic machine. I shouldn't have to walk an item, like say there's a book in one of those boxes. I have to walk that book across the warehouse to the dry cleaning station. I have to clean it off and make sure that that book comes back and is stored in the same box so that our inventory is correct. Well, it's inefficient. So we want to make sure when we open that box, everything gets cleaned at the same station. So these are the items going to the ultrasonic machine, and one of my pet peeves is the fact that I can see body parts. I can see somebody's legs back here. I don't like all that messiness. But I was working by myself at my station, but if I had another team member working with me, those table covers that we sell, they're ample enough that someone could raise that the tablecloth up and provide a backdrop for the contents. So you're going to get much better photos. But our next box is a 1.5 going to the ultrasonic machine. It's flower arrangements from the top of the armoire. Got some a photo of it. Our next box, and you can see I forgot to write down the routing information, and I probably wrote it in later. But I'm just showing you real life situations. It's not the end of the world. While we're trying to get really good procedures, we don't want to trip up over the fact that everything has to be perfect, okay? I mean, hundreds of people see these photographs, and I show you these on purpose. So we're still packing out the top of the armoire, and we can now see the drywall dust a whole lot better. But what I'm packing now are the wooden items. So these are going to go to the hand cleaning station. So multiple items going into the same box. The heavy ones, the biggest ones are packed on the bottom of the box. Lightweight items on top. We've got Gumby. He's on a stand. So as we take him off the stand, we find out he's a battery pack. And open up the zipper, take the batteries out. What are you going to do with the batteries? These are non-transportable items, so I put them in with all the total loss items. So we'll just gather up all the batteries from the job site and list them all together in the total loss items. We don't want to take batteries with us because if the acid leaks out, it could cause damage to the contents. Our next box is hand cleanable items from the top of the armoire. And here we've got a vase. And when I was doing the walkthrough with the gentleman, I said, oh, what a unique vase. It looks like it was meant to look all crackled and stuff. And he said, yeah. And I said, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't broken. He goes, oh, no, it was designed to look this way. So that's important information for us. We want the insured to realize that we know what we're looking at. And just being able to say, oh, I see you have a Yadro, or I noticed this feature on this item. With the raku, I noticed like one type of raku, and then when I said, oh, I see you have raku, then he showed me all the different types of raku. You need to get that rapport. You need them to realize that you know what you're talking about. You may only be able to identify one or two pieces of artwork or collectibles, but that shows that you do recognize things, and it's going to instill confidence in the insured. Okay, our next items are glass and some miscellaneous pieces. We've got bud vases. They look like they could be glass, so I did write down that they are plastic. And we have a price tag here. So this is an important photo. If I lose this or break it, I don't want to pay $35 for it when they had a $1.75 price tag on it. These items, as I was packing them, I realized they're hand painted. I didn't want to write that down, and I just kind of kept my comment vague. These are 3 resin or ceramic. I don't really know. I put the question mark, and they're kiwi slices. The next box, to be hand cleaned. We want to photograph where we got the items, and we're photographing the lamps. So we're going to bundle the cords up and multiple photos. We've got the height somewhat, and we took apart the squigglies and photographed them separately, and we rolled up bubble wrap into tubes and floated these lamps down the center. You're going to notice I've got like 3 or 4 different ways that I identify small parts inside the boxes. So I want to make sure that these light bulbs don't get thrown away with all the packaging material. So I wrote light bulbs on them before I wrapped them. The next box, these are going to be hand clean. They're delicate items, and they are the jewelry holders. Multiple photos. One rule of thumb is that when we find valuables like jewelry or money, that we separate those out and we give them to the homeowner and get a signature. But you know, there's always an exception to the rule. These little earrings are actually part of the artwork, and so I'm going to make sure that they stay with the artwork. They're not technically jewelry. So I put those into Ziploc bags. Now, how am I going to ensure they don't get thrown away? I can either put them in a large Ziploc bag that says do not dispose of, you know, jewelry, blah, blah, blah. I could tape them to the inside of the box. I could attach them to the inside of the box with fragile stickers so that you can't mistaken seeing them when you open up the box. Or I could stretch wrap them to the artwork. So, you know, whatever it takes. There could be 10 different ways to do it right, and only one way that's like really stupid where these would get lost. So, you know, it's all about flexibility. not so much about learning, there's only one right way of doing things. You may have limited packing supplies, and so you're going to have to adapt to what you have on hand. You might not have the best team members working with you, So there's so many variables on each job. We just want to think about what's going to be the safest way and why am I doing this? What's my goal? So as we're packing boxes, we want to line the bottoms, cushion them, bubble wrap, packing peanuts, crumpled paper. Here we're floating the doll in the center, and we made tubes with the bubble wrap. And we folded them in half, and we floated the doll down the center. And you might be thinking that's a lot of packaging material. But in this case, with the value of the dolls, we could justify it. The doll is taller than the box, so we had to marry two boxes together. Sometimes you marry two or maybe even three to get the height and the support that you need. So here we've got our doll down the center. We're bringing our packing supplies all the way to the top. And actually on this one we use 3 boxes. Here's 2 right here. And we're going to fill up the top and close it off. We're going to put another box on top of this now. Okay, our next box, same thing, just another doll. So there are 3 of these all together. Our next box is a 4.5 to be hand cleaned, and it's a speaker. So we've got a few different photos. We turned it upside down. And our next tagged item is going to be wet washed. So it's a tabletop from a workstation. This is the photo of where we found it. And this is a photo after we inventoried it. And now it's just up to the runners to protect that table and put it on the truck. Okay, our next item is a tagged item to be hand cleaned. It's the base of the table. There was only one. If you notice in the photo, this is the stand, and it was leaning against a filing cabinet. So I literally have one photograph of each of them. They're not my concern today. If I lose either of them, it's a minimal replacement fee, 20 bucks, whatever it is. But this is my last day here to pack out the artwork, so that's my main focus. So I want to make sure I have lots of photographs and that I'm taking the time to pack and protect the artwork. So here we are again inside my station, and I'm packing the items closest to me. And on my shelf, there's an item that the homeowner said was very old and valuable. Now I noticed that this piece, it looked like it was cut. So I brought it to his attention that I noticed it, and I wanted to verify that it wasn't broken. It was designed to look this way. You can see the crack here. One note about cracks. How do we know if the crack occurred before the fire or after the fire? Well, it depends on if the crack is dirty or not. If the crack is dirty, that means the soot got on there, through the course of the fire. But if we have something that is soot damage and there's a crack on it and the crack is clean, then it happened sometime after the smoke damage. It doesn't mean that we caused it to happen, but you figure if contents were up high on the shelf and they took a lot of heat and then they cooled down, that cooling effect could actually cause a crack, and it would be a clean crack. Okay, lots of photos. We've got our ruler in the photos. Here's more raku. And all these scratches that you see is all because this is a really porous type of ceramic. So multiple photos. Our next box is to be hand cleaned. It's our vase. So we can even use the wipe-off board as a light surface to photograph off of. So I wrapped the vase in bubble wrap, and then I didn't want to lose that little lid, so we wrapped it in paper so it would have a moisture barrier. We don't want to wrap wood in plastic because it'll sweat, condensate, and soften the finish of the varnish, and then we're going to have more problems. So we wrapped the lid in paper and literally taped it to the vase. This was not going to get lost. The reason I took this photograph is because they've got a lacquered piece on top of a very rough edged gourd. So if there's any scratches on this black piece, it's probably because of the way it was stored. And then we laid everything out on the table and photographed them, flipped them over, got the markings. And the next piece is a picture. And when we come across pictures, it's important not to lift them by the handle or the spout or the lid, because those are the weakest areas of the picture. And the lid was chipped, so we put it on our wipe-off board, made a note, have some arrows pointing to the chips, and we're wrapping the lid separately and marking it clearly on so that whoever opens that box sees this lid. Our next box is to be hand cleaned. It's a 3.0 size box, and we're going to put these bisque pieces in. So we photographed it upside down. It totally washed out. The next one is blurry, but I can see it says Brad, and it's $166. And here's our crane with a 1/4 inch thick neck. And we've got a photo here, but look how it pops against the dark background. So how would you wrap this item? My biggest concern, obviously, was this neck. And we could have wrapped it in bubble wrap, but then any pressure against the neck, it would have just snapped it right off. So we needed to have some type of support for the item. So we tore up a brand new box, and we made a sleeve for it. We made it bigger than the item. We wrapped it first in bubble wrap, and then we wanted to put it inside the brace. So it's not very pretty, but we marked the beak, the fragile area, with the big red fragile sticker on the bottom and the top, so that regardless of how people open this up, they're going to know where the delicate area is. When you're wrapping things like this, it's important not to stretch the tape too tight on the item itself and cause damage. So here, we've got our support. We've got it all taped in so that there's no shifting. You could even have a strip of tape that straps the item to the board so that if this gets moved around, it's not going to shift. Okay, so he was relieved that we were able to wrap this and protect it. He felt pretty confident it was going to be secure. So again, there's more than one way to do something. We just want to make sure it's going to be safe. Our next box is going to be hand cleaned, and it's our 3 wooden items. We're trying to get the photos of the markings. We've got our height. Now these items are really lightweight, so we wrap them each in bubble wrap and just put them on the top of that box. So we started out with a 3.0 size box, which is a medium box, put the heavy items in the bottom, and now we're going to put these lightweight items on the top layer. So how do we ensure that these don't get crushed? Well, there's a couple of different things that we can do. We can mark the box top load only. The other thing is we could use those round cardboard posts in the corners of the box, and all 4 corners, so that when we close that box, that there's support on the corners and it's not going to crush the top of the box. Our next box to be hand cleaned, we've got the raku. See how it scratches really easily? And we've got some glass pieces, getting the height. Our next box is being hand cleaned. It's a big vase. I'm trying to get the markings on the bottom. More raku, glass. Our next box, a 3.0 to be hand cleaned, and it's more raku. Our next box, 1.5 to be hand cleaned. We built another brace for this item, and we made a tube so that we could float this one. It has twigs attached to it. It was kind of tricky. With these small items, you could actually have a box. They kind of look like bakery boxes. They're white, glossy boxes, gift boxes. You fill the bottom of it with packing peanuts, place the item in the box, and then fill the rest of it up with packing peanuts. And then you collect a lot of those small boxes with the delicate items inside. And then with your large box, you want to layer the bottom with packing peanuts or some kind of padding, and then put in a couple of small boxes, more packing peanuts, and alternate the packing peanuts and the boxes. So it ends up that you've got boxes inside of a big box. And UPS ships a lot of things that way, and it works out fine. So we packed out a house with $250,000 worth of artwork, and we used that procedure on the $5,000 vases that fit in the palm of your hand. Okay, we're packing more of the raku. We've got a 3.0 box with black faces. And remember these are $800 a piece. So we wrap these individually. We've got some fancy handles and curly cues and things. So we just use the small boxes with packing peanuts. Again, nothing got broken on this job site. This is a stopper. This is actually a perfume bottle with a stopper in it. And again, all these scales are hand cut. Okay, so we just packed everything up, put it on the truck. Each day we loaded the truck. We didn't leave any contents that we packed or any packing supplies at the job site each night, because the insured was living there. So everything went back to the shop. This client uses the rolling carts. They're Stanley on wheels with a handle. So one of them is his pack-out kit and one is his tool kit. So he's got cordless drills and things so that furniture can be taken apart. So it's a good idea to have plenty of tools with you at the job sites. I prefer to have my packing supplies at each station. You can have smaller crates or simpler crates, and each station would have a crate with their tape and different things in it so that they don't have to leave their workstation very often to go get supplies. So that's the end of this presentation. And we're going to go into our manual. So let me freeze the screen here, and I'm going to open up our manual. If anyone has any questions or comments, please feel free to write those in on this side. So this is a document that you're going to be going through right now. Give me 1 second here. So what we're going to do is go through this form by form. We've got two sections of the table of contents. The first section talks about the system itself, and the second section are all the forms. So I see that it's 20 after. We would normally take our break in 10 minutes, but I'd like to just keep some continuity. So let's take a 5-minute break right now, and when we come back, we're going to go through our forms first, and then we're going to go through and just talk about some of the procedures. We're not going to go through and read these procedures. We've talked about them all through the first, section up till this point. So now we're just going to connect the dots, and we're going to use the forms and show you how to, use these as you're meeting with the homeowner and trying to decide how the job is going to go. And then we'll also go through how do you create your files on your computer and organize everything. So we've got another hour and 20 minutes. So let's take a 5-minute break. We'll come back, go through the manual, go through the filing system, and we'll finish up on time. Okay? So I'm going to set the timer for 5. I'll see you back here soon. Well, we're back, so we'll get started up again. We'll finish up in the next hour. So we're going to go through our training manual, and you can reprint this within your company. Use it for your training sessions. Feel free to use it. We're going to go through the second portion. So it's our forms, our sample letters, and sample documents. And we're going to start off with page 21. So I'll just scroll through here. Oops, went a little bit too fast. Okay, so we're going to consider, I see someone says they don't have this in have the training manual. Just please email me and I will send this over to you as soon as we're finished with the training session today. So you should have 3 emails from us. Email one of 3, 2 of 3, and 3 of 3. We're finding this time that several people did not get 1 of 3. So we don't know if it was just because the file is too big. We might have to split that one up for you into 2 emails. We totally apologize. We're going to reformat these manuals so that they're smaller. But if you can just bear with us right now, and we'll get through it, and then we'll get you the document. Okay, the first letter that we're going to look at is the letter to the insured. It says, well, first of all, let me, give me 1 second, and we're going to go to our website and show you how to use these documents. And we cover this in our other webinar, but the idea is that when we go to our walkthrough, we get a new job. I highly recommend that the Contentz manager walks every single job that has pack out or contents at the job site that need to be, processed. Sorry, give me 1 second. I'm trying to talk and pull something up on the website. So when we go to the home for the first time and we're doing our walkthrough, we want to be as prepared as possible so that we can get as much information as we can. We want to ask a lot of questions while the homeowner is honest, and so we can help them out the best way we can. So I like to have folders prepared. And these folders, the one that you see open on the bottom here, I'm trying to make this screen bigger. I'm not sure if I can. Here we go. Okay. This folder is one that you can put together, and it's the home restoration project. You can call this whatever you want to call it. You may already have full color glossy brochures for your company. Those are great. Inside we would have 2 pockets with the information that we want to share with them. So we've got the letter to the insured. You obviously can take that off. You can replace the logo with yours, make this personalized for the homeowner, and then you'd have non-transportable sheets, the take-along sheets, your company brochure, your business card, and you would leave this with the insured, because a lot of times we're only meeting with the husband or the wife, and then they have to try to remember everything and share it with the rest of the family when everybody gets back together again that evening. Well, that's a challenge. So we want to make it as easy as possible. So if we can give the insured paperwork that they can all read together as a family so that they understand what's going on with their project, it's going to make everyone's job a little bit easier. So let's just read through this letter to the insured. It says, our company values your trust in choosing us as your restoration company. We realize this is a difficult time for you and your family. It's our desire to provide you with outstanding professional services along with care and understanding. In an effort to familiarize you with the relocation process during the reconstruction and restoration of your home, we've outlined the typical restoration stages and procedures. Your project manager will strive to keep you informed throughout the project. And then we can highlight some of the initial stages. You can customize this letter for any kind of job that you have, whether it's a water loss, a fire loss. And then it says, based on the condition of your structure, the weather conditions, the amount of personal belongings to be packed and or moved, each stage could take several days to complete. We strive to make the process as smooth as possible. You'll be advised of the date that the photo inventory crew will begin the pack-out process. To ensure that you have personal items your family may need at your temporary residence, we provide you with a complimentary supply of moving boxes and packing supplies to be used for collecting personal items such as those listed on the take-along list. Now, we're saying that these are complimentary boxes. In reality, we're charging the insurance company, right? So this is not an expense out of our pocket, and we have to remember to include those in our billing. I like to give them plenty of boxes, maybe like a 25-pack of small boxes, a bundle of moving paper, a tape gun, and maybe a 6-pack of tape. And give that all to them so that they can, in the privacy of their home, go through and collect those personal belongings. Now it says, if the items that you need are damaged, please bring them to our attention and we'll assist you by getting the items rush processed if possible. These would be critical items necessary for daily function. If the items are non-restorable, we will make alternative suggestions. And those suggestions are going to include, we're going to list these on a total loss sheet. Maybe they can get an advance check for their toiletries and things that they need immediately. Okay, the next paragraph. We ask that a policyholder be present during the move-out as a signature is required to release your contents to our care. After the move-out, you'll receive a CD with a digital photo album documenting the items packed and awaiting processing. Your contents are being transported and processed in our contents processing facility where they will be evaluated, cleaned, and or restored and secured in individual storage crates. If you determine that you need additional items from storage for immediate use, please feel free to contact us. Our contents retrieval processing fee is $75 per vault plus a labor fee of X amount per hour. As a courtesy, we'll waive the fee for one retrieval when requested within 2 weeks from the move-out date. Feel free to contact us if you have any questions or need further assistance. So obviously this is going to be on your letterhead, and you can customize this any way you want. The reason that I like this last paragraph is because we're setting parameters for the homeowners. How many times have people called up, they're in a panic, they need something for the party that they're going to, they want you to pull it out of storage. Well, we understand that's going to happen occasionally. I mean, can you imagine if everything you own was in storage somewhere? That'd be awful. So retrievals are just part of our job, but we have to set parameters. And so in this paragraph, we might want to say, please call us to make an appointment, to retrieve contents. And when they realize that there are fees involved, the insurance company is the one who's going to have to pay these fees. So if they're asking for a $40 blender and it's going to cost $125 to pull it out of storage, then we can just let them know the numbers, and maybe they'll decide to just go buy a new one. Okay, inside this letter we mentioned the take-along list. And these are things that we want the insureds to collect on their own in the privacy, give them space so that they can go find these items. So their insurance policies, birth certificates, passports, maybe the kids' homework. I like to ask them, do you have any events coming up, showers, birthday parties? Because we want to know, like, do you need anything for these events? Are they going on vacation? Are they going to need their suitcases, special clothing? So we want them to think about what do they need to take along with them, and what do they need that's going to need to be rush processed, or if we know that they're going to have a party and they need certain dinnerware, then let's mark it clearly so that those items are kept towards the front of our vault. Maybe we're going to process everything, but we want it to be handy for when they need it. And then this sheet lists the valuables, the checkbook, credit cards, jewelry, firearms, silver, furs, coin or stamp collection. For the most part, we don't want to be responsible for these kind of items. We want, if we can, give them cleaning products so that they can clean these items themselves, or have them call their furrier to clean the furs and store the furs. So if we do have to take any of these kind of high-value items, we want a paper trail. We want signatures, and we want to have a secure space at our facility to store these items. Okay, our next sheet is our non-transportables. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not in this one. We do have a sheet. It might be in with your handouts, but it's non-transportable. What kind of things do we not want to transport? The flammables, the consumables like paper plates, holiday decorations, the paper ones that are real flimsy. So we want to, clarify for the homeowners what we do and what we don't take with us, and we can separate those items. Okay, the declaration of value sheet. We want to ask the insured, what do you have that's worth X amount of dollars? Whether it's $500, $1,000, $2,000, what do they have that's really valuable? Do they have a separate insurance policy for those items? And we want to list those items and get their signature that we are taking those items into our care, custody, and control. The next sheet is a personal property loss inventory sheet. Just in case the insurance company didn't give them any kind of sheets to list their things, then we can provide a complimentary one. The daily job plan sheet and its procedure sheet are next. So this is set up that the supervisor can say, on such and such a date, the task description is to pack out the first floor. And they're going to have a crew of 4 people. Their planned man hours are going to be on the job site for 7 hours, so the planned hours are going to be about 28. And then the materials that they need are going to be an air scrubber. They're going to need an extra 50 medium boxes. And then the actual man hours towards the end here. So at the end of the day, if the planned man hours were 27, and they came in at 24, well, that's good. Is there a reason? Were they not able to access a certain area? So they can write those things in. And then at the end, these are notes, an area for notes. So you can use this form if you want to do it like one form per day, or if you want to use one form for the whole week. It just depends on, your needs. Okay, the room name assignment sheet. We have a lot of different paperwork that requires the room names. We've got our Xactimate, estimate. We've got our boxes. They're going to have the room names on them. Our estimating sheets. So we want everything to be consistent. And over here, we don't want to write in the yellow bedroom, because then during the pack back, if they painted that bedroom white, everybody's going to be confused, like where the heck is the yellow bedroom? If you say it's the west bedroom, if the sun's not shining, I might not know which way is west. So we want to just keep these names according to what the homeowners call them. So if it's Susie's bedroom, Billy's bedroom, family room, then use these consistently with Xactimate. And in Xactimate we kind of get lazy because there's BR1 for bedroom 1, BR2. Go ahead and write in the actual room names if you have to itemize each room. And then the next sheet is the room information sheet. So here we can handwrite. We would have a stack of these for each job. They would be in our job folder. And we can write in Susie's bedroom. The dimensions, it's not really crucial for this sheet, but we'll just say it's 12 by 14. Special instructions, all mattresses and, it would help if I could spell, and pillows are total loss. Do not pack the puzzles. So you can write anything in here, and I like to print these out on hot pink paper so that I put these inside the doorway, and now I've just passed on accountability to the rest of the crew. So I'm doing my walkthrough. I'm hearing these decisions being made with the insured and the adjuster. But how am I going to transfer all this information over to the supervisor and the crew? A lot of details could get lost. So if I just write them down and put this on a hot pink paper inside the doorway, now it's everyone's responsibility to take a look at the room information sheet. And it's going to eliminate a lot of the communication problems. Okay, our next sheet is our vault storage form. And this one, when everything is brought back to your facility, you know how many vaults it filled up, how many linear footage of racking was used, and these get cut in half, and you just write in, these would go to the estimator for the job. I'm going to go to Estimator Joe, and this is from Barb. The date, the job name, job number, and we used 6 vaults, and let's see, about 24 linear footage of racking space. So you can customize this, if you've got storage vaults, if you've got pods, floor space. Just list all the areas where you're storing content so that you can charge appropriately for it. So the estimator needs this so that they can input it into Xactimate and charge for it. And we always want to charge forward. If we know that this is going to be a 3-month pack out, then the 6 vaults is going to be times 3, so we'll have a total of 18 vaults for that entire job. That's what we want to bill for. Okay, our next sheet is our photo inventory estimating form. And remember, this is the one form that I do have you write things on out in the field. But we want to just keep it really brief. So we'll have several pages printed out for your job, and you have this form. So our inventory number 1, what is it? It's either an item or a box of contents. And then we need to know the size. If it's a box, size of the box, and what's in it. We've got dishes. We've got a box of figurines. Inventory number 3 is an item. It's a 7-foot long sofa that needs to be dry cleaned, or it's leather. And then our next item is 4 bed slats. And the next item is a headboard, and the size is a queen size. So these are all individually inventoried items. And now as I go through here, if I'm the estimator, I'm going to have a stack of these sheets. And on my computer screen, I'm going to have 2 programs opened up. The one is going to be Xactimate, and the other program is going to be my photos from this job. And I have these sheets in front of me on my desk, and all I'm going to do is go through here, and I'm going to cross off the first 2 lines. I'm going to highlight these with my highlighter, and I'm going to go through this entire sheet, and at the bottom I'm just going to tally up. I'm going to handwrite that I've got X amount of 1.5 size boxes, and then I'm going to go through and highlight my furniture pieces as I enter them into Xactimate. So it can be really fast and simple just inputting these into Xactimate. As I highlight them, that means that they're in Xactimate, and I can go through each sheet and tally up how many 1.5 size boxes there are, and I'm just going to do one entry into Xactimate. We've got 120 small boxes, right? And then all the other items will be itemized as well. So that's what we're doing with this estimating form. It's very simple. We don't want a lot of information on it, just enough to enter into Xactimate. Okay, now we've got an estimating checklist. You can customize this any way you want. It's just a tickler so that you remember to put everything into Xactimate, everything from the job. The next sheet is our disposal authorization form. You might have one of these per job. You might have 30 per job. The point is that we always want to fill out the disposal authorization form for things that are being thrown away. So we want to write down, we had 2 queen size mattresses, 2 queen size box springs, 10 standard size pillows. And then we're going to have the homeowner sign off that she approves of the disposal of these items. And now you're going to save these forms. You can scan these into your computer. You can keep your hard copies in your binder. The next sheet is our total loss labels. So these get printed out on fluorescent orange stickers. I give you the U-line information here. And these are great when you're doing a walkthrough and you determine the mattresses are total loss. You just put these stickers on so that the pack-out team knows not to bring them back to the shop if at all possible. If you are dealing with the homeowner, the woman of the house, and you both agree that the golf clubs are a total loss. If the husband comes home at night and sees one of these stickers on his golf clubs and he really wants you to try to clean them and save them, then, that can come up for discussion. Rather than him being surprised that someone else decided his golf clubs were a total loss. The next sheet is the supply requisition form, and these can be created. You can customize this however you want. This one is set up for emergency services, packouts, and on-site cleaning. You can customize it so that it only applies to packouts. You can create several different layouts for those. Here's the DPI supplies checklist again. I showed you this in the first hour. Recommended box quantities for residential packouts. This is just a guideline. My rule of thumb is always start out with small boxes. Use those up first. It controls how much you put inside the box. We don't get overloaded boxes, and it also helps us our quantities so that we charge appropriately for that job. And there's a lot of information that we share during the contents processing and pack out portion of the webinar. I know some of you that are listening in right now have been through other portions of our classes and our workshops. And there's a lot of information that we just don't have time to share right now. So if you hear me, not mentioning certain things, it's not because they're not important anymore. It's just that, we're trying to be as specific as possible for digital photo inventory. Okay, the next form, employee sign-out sheet. If you want your employees to sign things out, our digital cameras are a few $100s a piece, and the pack-out kits get to be pretty expensive when they're loaded up properly. The contents tracking log. This is for when the homeowners may keep some of their contents or they retrieve contents. You can even use it for your subcontractors when they pick up contents. The damage breakage form. This is important. I like to make these 3 parts so that you can list the item that was broken, the date, who broke it, how was it broken, who was notified, the approximate cost, how is it handled, and was it replaced, repaired, or reimbursed. And I'd like to show you a website. Some of you may be familiar with it. This is called replacementslimited.com. And we're on a page right now for Yadros. These are golden memories. I had one of these in my photos. It was the little clown at the very beginning. These come in all different sizes, so the size determines the price. But you can go to this website and find replacements. They may be a lot less expensive than if you had to reimburse the homeowner for this suggested retail price. With eBay and Amazon.com and this website, we can replace a lot of things. So the website has a tab for collectibles, for china, patterns are all listed. Crystal, if you break one wine glass, you don't have to replace all 10 of them, just that one. So if you can find out what the pattern or the company that made it, then you can just replace one. Silver pieces, according to the manufacturers companies, replacementsinc.com, these guys, this company has a facility. It's huge, and they literally stock millions of pieces of content. It's a 400,000 square foot facility, and all they do is stack onesies and twosies and collectibles, so that if you do have to replace anything, it's going to be a lot cheaper than paying for it. So we want to have the option to replace or repair an item before we pay full retail price. Again, this is one of those areas where it all depends. If the homeowner is saying that it's a $20 item and that's all they want compensated for, you can write them a check pretty easily for $20 and have it behind you. But if they're claiming that something is worth $2,000 and you think you can, find a replacement for half of that, then you want that option. Okay. The next form is the released goods receipt. And it says that I have released all items which are digital photo inventoried with the exception of the items listed below, which will be processed on site at the above address. So remember earlier I said, what if we leave stuff on site? We still want to inventory them, but we want to get a release. This is the basis for your release. And as my waiver to all of you, please realize that I do not intend for any of these to be legal documents for you and your state or country, okay? Please just use these as an outline. Customize the ideas, the forms for your company. Have your lawyer go through the forms too. We're not making any kind of, we're just not saying that these are legal forms, okay? All right. The next one, customer inventory waiver. It says that we acknowledge that a thorough inventory was taken on all contents, including the number of boxes of various items, so that we can verify what's being removed for cleaning. We were encouraged to be present to see the truck being loaded and verify the inventory. We've chosen not to exercise this right and accept your company's inventory as accurate. The next one, the received goods receipt. This is for when they do the retrievals. So if they just, if they take the box with the blender, you can mark in the inventory number, the description, serial number, and the condition, and give it back to them. You can also use this form with your electronics repair companies. If you have to send out musical instruments for repairs, appliances, they all can be used with this document. The emergency pack-out procedures. We know that the water guys, they go out in the middle of the night and they're exhausted. They're trying to dry up a house. They may have some contents that they need to be bringing back to the shop. And a lot of times they just drop them off and we don't have any record of who dropped them off or what household they're from. So this is a very, very simple pack-out procedure. You can put this written procedure into a 2-pocket folder, go over it with the water team, and then we have the emergency job contents drop-off form. So they can write down the contents that they're leaving in the shop. So it's a red Oriental rug, 2 bags of clothes, and whatever else that they're dropping off. The condition, they're wet, they're moldy, they're soot damaged. They need them back by Tuesday. And it was dropped off by Joe and Jim. Okay, so that's all we need. And then inside that packet, we would have blank labels. So they're not going to have the inventory 001 and 002 and the company number. These are going to be blank. And they can handwrite in all the information. Okay, one of the documents that you have sent to you already, it's a document with vault numbers. There's 600 pages, I think. You don't want to print that out. So they're just meant for, they're working documents for when you need them. This is the vault control sheet. We're going to write in the job name and the date and the condition of the contents. Here's your empty vault sheet. The vault control sheet, remember I said the first 3 columns are going to be for boxes and the last column is going to be for furniture. And then in the ideal situation, if you have a warehouse that has your slips are 2 vaults deep by 2 vaults high, the bottom rear position is A. And if you have the Smith job stored there, you can just write that in. The B position, the top back, is Jones. Sorry, my forms are wigging out here. Okay, and then we have another format where you can list your slips and the position, write in the client name that's stored there, the vault number, the status of the contents, they're dirty or clean, and what percentage of the vault is used. Okay, so those are all the documents. You can customize any of those with your logos. So let's go back up to the beginning. And I'm just going to show you what's here. I'm not going to read everything to you because, like I said, we already went through most of it. So there's an introduction on DPI, the supplies that we need, the crew requirements, a supervisor, a lead technician, and 2 other technicians that I call runners. Here's our overview of our DPI procedures, starting the process, and we list some items that might be like high value, that high priority items like wet electronics, wet books, wet contents to be outsourced, our total loss items. So, you know, what do we do with those kind of things? And then we talk about setting up the workstations, which I showed you, filling out the inventory labels, how to photograph our contents, and then kind of like the office, the fact that at the end of the day that we need to bring back all those photos and download them at the office. And that's what we're going to go through next. If you would like to put your photos into folders that look really nice, there's a program called flipalbum.com. I've never had the time to, you know, use it, but it is a software package that makes the photo albums look really nice for the insureds. We have job descriptions listed, and you can just change the job title if you'd like. You may not have a lot of different positions within your company, but the important thing is to assign all these tasks to somebody, because, you know, they all need to be done. We've got a position for the warehouse manager and what they do. You may not have a warehouse manager, but these tasks need to be absorbed by somebody. Here's a list of things that go into the job binder. So there's a lot of information here, and I'm not going to put you to sleep by going through it all. I think it's a lot easier showing you how it's done rather than reading it to you. So now let's determine how we are going to save all this information on our computer. So I'm sure you have folders on your computer, and we want to create a folder called DPI jobs, okay? So here's my folder, DPI Packout Jobs, and in here I've got my jobs listed. So multiple jobs, and I'm going to show you the Scott job. Within this client's job folder, I have a photo folder. And these are all the photos from her pack out, okay? So I'm going to go through here, and these are, I can have folders for each day of the pack out. I can save them by the person. So I've got a sample one here. This is Barb from September 24th of 10. This is Jennifer's camera, and you can do it by camera number, camera disc with a date. And the important thing is to save those photographs consistently in their own folders. Because if for some reason we merge a couple folders, the photos get all jumbled up or they get deleted, you always have your master folders with your photos. So looking at this job, let me see if I can get this bigger so you can see it better. Okay, it's not cooperating with me. I'll do it this way. Okay, we've got our label for the kitchen, and then I can see it's a chair. Got some damage on it, so multiple photos, multiple chairs. So any given job, you're going to have hundreds, if not thousands, of photographs, right? Here we laid out the damaged chair cushions, got some more photos. So I can just zip through here and look at my my photographs. I've got general photos. So these photos are going to help me later during the pack back when I need to put everything back in position. So I can come through here, and I'm going to just select my inventory photos from the kitchen. I see a batch of them here. And what I'm going to do, I'm not going to cut and paste. I want to right click and copy. And then I'm going to go back to my folders, and I've got a folder here called Room Folders. And I've got my folders listed. I've got a kitchen one, and now I'm going to copy, I'm going to paste my photographs into this folder. So you can see these are the ones that I had just selected. I copied them, and now I'm pasting them into the room folder. And then I've got more of all the ceramics, okay? So I can just come in at any point and say, oh, I need to see what's in box number 9. So we've got a cookie jar, and I've got a purple bowl. So here's a good example. Since this is a client's folder, you know, just their room folder, I could delete this one because I still have the original over in the other folders. So lots of photographs, and this is where I'm going to eliminate any of the ones that I don't want to show the homeowner. So here's an example. I've got 4 photographs of this one vase. Maybe I'm just going to eliminate 3 of them so that the thumbnails that I print for the homeowner, you know, are less. So it's going to save me some ink, and the homeowner doesn't need to see 4 photographs of the same item. Okay, so I'm going to go back, and you can see I've got folders. I've got a bedroom folder, the general photos, and I can scroll through here and look at things. You'd be surprised how much you use your general photos. This one, the reason I took this photograph is because as we were working that day, we saw the sunlight come in these big windows. And the sunlight came, it's on this Navajo rug, and I thought, we're going to be packing this rug out and cleaning it. I don't want to be accused of fading out the colors. So I'm showing the house, you know, the fact that sunlight comes in on this Navajo rug, and if there's any sun bleaching, I've got evidence of it. So the photo doesn't really have anything to do with the pack out that I'm doing. These are just general photos about the conditions of the home. Then I have my kitchen folder, a living room folder, and a total loss folder. And I told you I was going to show you a very easy way of doing total loss. If you can suggest this to the adjuster, it's going to make your life so much easier if he lets you do it this way. But we can write down on our wipe-off board that these are the total loss items, and then a photo of the pantry, what we're packing out. And then we made like a 2x2 square on the countertop. We covered the counter with a moving pad and plastic sheeting. And we set up an area where we would lay out the contents of the cabinet and photograph them so that you can see the name of the item and maybe the size. Now the homeowner is going to go through all these photos and put her price tags of what she thinks the replacement cost is on each of the photos. So maybe this one is $17 worth of food and this one's $12 worth of food, and she can price those out. So really, really simple. Then as we go towards the end of the total loss items, even the drawers. Just open a drawer, photograph it, plants, melted wall hanging, plasticware, non-transportables. Technically, the homeowner could go through and just put price tags on all this stuff. Now, these ones you can't see quite as well. Here we've got everything in place in the bathroom. So the adjuster was great. He just let the insured put her own values on things. Okay, so we can have a folder here for just our printouts. So you have a packing label document, and it'll just open up here in a second. And I'll show you this vault locator board in a minute too. Okay, you have a document for your packing labels. The first page is instructional. If you want to just, copy and paste this into another document and then just delete it so that your first page is your first label, you can do that. And the way that the instructions are, what you do to rename all these is you come into Word, and I want to replace the Scott name with Jones. So I can say replace all, and it just made the replacement on 617 pages. Okay. Now the next thing that I want to change is the job number area. So I'm going to copy this, paste it over here, and this time instead of using an address to document this, I'm going to just call it job number 1234, and it just made 616 replacements. And that's the only thing I need to do to customize these labels for my new job. And then I'm going to save this. I've got my DPI pack-out jobs. I'm going to create a new folder for Jones. And I'm going to rename my labels for the Jones job. And I'm going to save them here. Okay? So it's really simple. So now I've got over 600 labels. Well, let me see. The labels that you received. Yeah, you've got up to 616 labels in this one document. So this is the one I was saying, please don't print all these documents, because these are just working documents. If on my new job, I'm going to start it, and I guesstimate that I need 200 labels. I could delete this first page of instructions, If I need 200 labels, I just need to come in and print the first 100 pages because I've got 2 labels per page. So I'm going to come in and say just print 1 through 100 pages. And print those out, save them, take them to the job site. And I always like to print more than I think I'm going to need so that I don't run out of labels on that job. Okay, here's a cool thing I can share with you. This is a vault locator board that one of my clients made up. He used to work at a moving company, and they had this at their facility, at their plant. And what you do, one of my clients is building one of these up in Canada, so I'm anxious to see how it turns out. Just a board with nails, and you list your slips. So they have 2 slips that are 2 vaults deep and 2 vaults high, and then they have another 7 slips that are 2 vaults high and 3 vaults deep. So they use these small, they're kind of like Formica chip samples, but they made 2 holes in them. So here's the template for the nail holes. And in slip number 3, the last 2 vaults, number 38 is on the bottom and 39 is on the top. And the second vault deep, the bottom one is 35 and the top one is 30. And the front vault on the bottom is 23 and number 4 is on top. They use wipe-off markers, and they write on each chip the name, the job name of, for the contents inside the vault. So they can move these around on this board. If you have a warehouse manager and they're real detail-oriented, this is a real simple way of knowing where your vaults are. So if you'd like that document, just write to me and I'll forward it to you if I didn't already send it to you. Okay, in our DPI printouts folder, we also could have our thumbnail printouts. So these are the printouts for the general photos from the house. And I just selected the ones that I definitely wanted to share with the insured. And I can print these. I can put these into a binder. I could make a real nice binder for the insured with tabs for each room. I could have the general photos tab, the living room tab, kitchen tab, and then print the thumbnails accordingly and create the binder for them. The other thing is, once you have all the room folders like this, this could be the folder that you give the insured on a CD-ROM. And then they have all the photos. When they want to retrieve something, then you just ask them, well, what room was it in? Well, I think it was in the kitchen. Okay, and what would you like to retrieve? Well, there was a photo of me and my son. Okay, so I can come here. I see the photograph. Confirm, is this the one you want? Yes. Well, then I can see that it's in package number 6. And then I go to my warehouse folders, that vault control sheet, and I find out which vault has box or package number 6. Or, some companies, I know CanStar up in Canada, they've got a whole room where they keep all of their framed artwork, and they have special shelves built. So in this case, they would know just to go to that room, and they'd be able to find this package and be able to return this piece of the photograph to the insured. If they want their chairs, I can see their items number 1 through 4, and I just need to go to my vault control sheets and see where those chairs are stored. So it's very simple. Try not to overcomplicate things with the system. You can expand it, contract it according to your company, what the needs of your company are. If you have any really cool ideas that you come up with that make it really simple, I'd really appreciate if you'd share it with me. I love hearing new ideas. So pretty much that is the system. It's just that simple. It's not real complicated. Sorry, I'm trying to close my windows down. If you need anything, just email me. I know I'm going to send a couple of you the training manual today. And if you'd like the Essentials Pack-Out Kit, just call us and we'll give you a 15% discount and we'll ship those out to you. If you're interested in any of our other webinars, we list them on our website, or I'm sure you're on our mailing list because you know about this training. So I'm sure you get those announcements all the time. But it's great working with you. Thank you so much for your attention.